Good evening. Welcome to tonight's school committee meeting. Mike, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sure. Pledge
Allegiance
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, folks, we apologize for starting a few minutes late. We just came from a recognition of retirees. Cicely Houston, Kathleen Hibbett, and Evelyn Holm are three of our educators who are retiring. We're over at the high school honoring them and saying goodbye. That's why we're a couple minutes late starting this evening. We just had our Pledge of Allegiance. We've been called to order. I'd like to congratulate both Darrell and Alex winning re-election. So now you're stuck to be back on the school committee for 3 years. Plenty happy to have you guys, so well done. Congratulations again. Okay, as is our custom, after the town election, we do reorganize the school committee for the various positions and subcommittees that we have as part of our duties with the subcommittee. And again, as is our tradition, is the chair will hand over temporary chairmanship to the superintendent for him to lead us through the reorganization, the election of a chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. And the two leftovers are members. And we don't have to vote on the members because we're already here.
I love leftovers.
So with that, Mr. Superintendent, I hand over the chair to you.
Well, thank you. Before we get started, though, Chairman Ovella, I'm going to ask you if you'd like to make a few comments.
Oh, sir, thank you very much. I've been your chairman of your school committee for the last 3 years. As we proceed tonight, it's time that we make a change in that. Fresh blood is always good, new ideas, and new leadership. So tonight, what I'd like to do is nominate Mike Fontanella for chairman of the Littleton School Committee.
Second that.
Any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
My
carried.
wife's not here, so she can't say no.
Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you. Ducked it for 8 years. Step up, Fonty.
That's it this year, though.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we give it back to Mike?
We do, and since it's your first meeting, Mike, PJ and I can certainly help you through it, although you've been on the school committee
Yes,
for a long time.
so
I'm sure you know
I'll ask
everything.
for help when I need it.
We'll just swap seats. Oh, he's going to take care of it for us. Well done.
Next component of the agenda would be subcommittee appointments.
Wait, we got to finish up the vice chair.
Oh,
and
I'm
secretary.
sorry, I'm moving right along.
So maybe you need a little help.
See, it's customary to actually follow the agenda. Easy, Alexander Haig.
He gets one function, and he no more than that.
His chairmanship and bam. Power. All right, I will open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Darrell Baker for vice chair.
Let me get a second. 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 Are there any other nominations for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Chuck.
Second.
Second. All right. All right. What do we do?
You can call a vote on the first one
Okay.
and let it ride and see what happens.
All right.
If it obviates the second one, then you wouldn't have to have the second one.
Very good. And if it doesn't obviate the second, we'll have the second.
Correct.
All right. Very good. All right. Call a motion for a vote on the nomination of Darrell Baker for vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Nay. All right. We'll call a motion, call the floor to, on the vote for Chuck DeCoste as vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. All right, Chuck, you're the vice chair. All right, I'll open the floor to nominations for secretary.
I nominate Darrell Baker, secretary.
Second.
Are there any other nominations for secretary? Hearing none, I will call for a vote for Darrell Baker as secretary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None? All right, so we're done with that. Thank you, guys. I will lean heavily.
You and me are going to be close now.
That's it, we're much closer now. I'm the better for it.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. So the subcommittees don't typically vote, we just kind of do this by consensus, correct? All right. So we'll go down the list. The first one is the Bradford Sampson Scholarship Trust. The current assignment is myself. This is a very low-key assignment. I'm happy to keep my name on it, but if anybody else would like to volunteer to do it, I'm happy to let them participate.
I think we're happy you're happy.
Okay. All right, so we'll keep that. Permanent School Planning Committee, no appointment necessary at this time. I think that's still true, all right? Evaluation, current assignment is Daryl Baker. Does a bang-up job. Is there
Willing to
Daryl?
continue doing that?
I'd love to have you continue doing that. Does anybody else have any?
I'm a big fan of Daryl doing it.
I'm a big fan of Daryl doing most of the heavy lifting he does
All right.
here.
Regionalization Study Committee, current assignment is PJ and Kelly Clenchy.
I'd like to stay there if I can.
Okay, and I think it's a good idea to have Kelly involved in that for, if it does become active, so we'll leave that there. Municipal Building Committee, current assignment is Alex.
I'm there. I do have some issues sometimes making all the meetings. If anyone would be willing to help me out there, that's fine. I can try to tough it through, but if an issue does come up, it would be, some different representation might be good.
How about this, if you do stick with it, but you probably know your schedule well enough that you can maybe give one of us a call, and then we could cover the meeting, how's that?
That's right.
How busy is that committee right now in general? I mean,
It meets twice a month,
Right.
but the school issues aren't usually the
Okay.
issues being discussed.
all right, let's leave it like that, if that's okay with you.
All right.
Is that all right? All right. So definitely let us know. Don't not go without letting us know. One of us will.
If in fact Alex is unable to attend and one of us is able to attend, we will not have a voting privilege, right?
I think,
That's
but
just
again, I
voting
think
on
that's
the warrant,
okay,
so-
given the
Yeah.
current level of activity. I think we can live with that. If
It-
that changes,
I just
It
don't
might be an
think it's
issue more for the
weekend that-
PMBC side on
Right.
terms of a quorum.
right? Okay.
So-
We would not count as a quorum, because he does take an oath.
Right.
And certainly a town administrator can back us up if we're making a
Right.
mistake in this assessment. But you'd be the member of the committee.
That's right.
We would just be representing the school committee.
There's nothing that precludes us from revisiting if
Right.
it becomes a problem for you or for them.
Right,
or
and
both, or whatever.
these meetings tend not to discuss school issues, so it's mostly just.
There are some school projects that are on the radar
capital plan.
screen, you know, for the
Right.
capital
Yeah.
plan, a few $100,000 worth of,
Okay.
$1 million projects, but there are, you know, school roofs and
Yeah.
some other things that are recently approved by town meeting.
All right, so leave Alex here for now. Technology Committee, the current assignment is also Alex.
I'm happy with that.
Okay. Anybody else feel like they want that? Alex seems good with it. All right. Legislation, also Alex.
Still happy with that, unless anyone else wants to
I wouldn't
jump
mind
on.
who lives in Boston. I have no problem with that. All right. Policy, current assignment is Daryl Baker.
I'm willing to continue that. I have one more year left to make it through them. I may not do this again.
One time around the track, it's a long track, right?
It's a long track.
Yeah.
You just got a three-year bump, you're good to go.
I'll train my replacement.
Okay, good, all right. All right, so we'll leave you on there for this year then.
Yes.
Oath to bills and payroll, it's currently me. I'll hang in there. I'm gonna be in the office more often than I've ever been, so I'll take care of that. Liaison with town government, current assignment is Paula Vella.
I'd like to continue that, please.
All right, anybody okay with that?
Yeah,
Yep.
do you need me, it's good with one?
Negotiations, current assignment is PJ and Chuck. Probably leave that for the time being, right? We just,
Yeah, because after,
We're almost done.
what I anticipate this evening, what will happen is we will be done.
right, good, okay. And then we'll revisit that when we have to make it more active. Representative of Community Services, Park and Recreation Department.
I'm happy with that.
Chuck DeCoste will retain that. Budget Subcommittee is currently me. I'm more than happy to be on it, stay on it. However, it would be great if somebody else wanted to kind of jump in on that and help out.
I can jump in on that.
Okay. We'll talk about the schedule. Usually we meet in the early mornings, but
Right.
we can work around that.
Excellent.
All right, so we're going to keep me on there. We'll add Alex, you guys okay with that? Anybody else?
Sounds good.
Yeah, the early mornings are
All right.
an issue for me.
All right, good. So we are done with that. All right, so committee appointments. All right, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda minutes, May 8, 2014, oath to bills and payroll.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Next on the agenda is interested citizens. Bob, if you just want to step up and use the microphone for the listening audience at home. Yep, just identify yourself and...
Thank you. I'm Robert Malnati. I live at 147 King Street, a citizen of Littleton. I have a question which I recognize you may not be able to answer tonight, but I would like to hear an answer in the near future. I understand from a previous meeting that we have a school policy of retaining special education students within the district. This district has 22.1% of its students in special education. State average is 17%. I'm aware of 2 specific cases of students who definitely would have done better in another school. And I'm wondering why we fought so hard to retain them here when they could have been done better elsewhere. Remember, students first. I think that's our first priority. So I would like to hear an explanation as to why we have this policy to retain special ed students within the district. I might also point out, for those of you interested in following the dollars, that according to the published figures, our average cost per year for a non-special ed student, including overhead, is $8,182.72. For a special ed student, it's $18,793.52. It's a large number. If we are keeping students here that don't belong here, when it costs us so much more and it deprives them of the education they need, I'd like to know why. Thank you.
I'm going to let Kelly speak to it before, then the rest of us, if we have anything that we want to add, we'll go ahead.
I'm going to, I'll give you some generalities. Obviously, this is a situation of confidentiality in terms of students. And the Director of People and Personnel Services should most likely have a conversation as well, but I will certainly start this evening. Our policy, as you put it, is to provide the best possible educational opportunities for students, whether in district or out of district. We do not have such a policy that prevents students from going out of district. We have a process that works with the IEP team, and through that collaborative process, we make decisions as to what the best placement is. Your figure of $18,000 is close. The average cost of an out-of-district placement. And before I even make this statement, I want to make it very clear that cost isn't the concern. It's appropriate placement is the concern. Ranges anywhere from a minimum of $50,000 to hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the accommodations that are required. So I hope that helps answer your question. I've never ever been involved in a situation since I've been superintendent here where a process or practice wasn't followed. I think it's important for you to also know that if there's a disagreement between the parents and the IEP team, so to speak, there's a legal process that they go through to reach a resolution of some sort. So there are checks and balances in place that protect from exactly what you're referring to from happening.
Yet it appears it does happen, and I'm trying to understand why. And the process seems to be weighted with the school system being the 800-pound gorilla. And we've got a parent coming in with a disabled child or a child with a special need, and 6 months later they're still fighting the battle. And my question was, why do we fight it so hard when there is what appears to be a clear need? I, at the moment, will demur from naming a specific name. I'm aware of 2 specific cases, and that's what has brought it to my attention. I think it's inappropriate in this forum, in a public forum, to mention the names of the cases. I'd be happy to discuss them with you privately, and you can decide whether they belong in a public forum.
Right.
But 2 cases within the last 12 months where students, to my opinion and the opinion of numerous other people, should have been allowed to go someplace else. The question, was it because of the cost of sending them where they should have gone? Were we depriving these children of the special needs treatment that they were deserving of? I don't know. That's why I asked my question.
I'm going to weigh in here, and I think we kind of need to slow down and even stop this one.
Sure.
In the sense that if there's an issue relative to particular kids, that's between the parents and the district, and any legally assigned representatives. We can't, as individuals, be advocating for people that we're not, charged with. Secondly, I would say that I think Kelly was clear that any decisions that were made were not made based on cost. They're made on what we believe as a district is the best practice for the kids, particular kids, and both in the kids as a whole. And that also includes the regular ed kids. A lot of the things that we do in terms of trying to keep programs and services in district are done because we feel like, and we vet the process while we go through it, that we can meet and even at times exceed the care being provided as an alternative out of district by doing it in district, and as a secondary benefit, and I stress the word secondary, it has a positive impact on the bottom line for the district overall, which impacts the rest of the children positively. But that's always the secondary concern. I'm sure that there are community members who would feel we've been over-aggressive at times in a particular case, but we always have to remember that, there are other people who felt we might have behaved exactly appropriately. It would become a matter of opinion at that point. As school committee members, our charge is to make sure that our administrative team and our teachers are adhering to our policies in Mass General statutes and any regarding federal statutes regarding these types of situations. As someone who's been on the committee for quite a while, I feel very confident. We've had many presentations. We've been audited. We feel we meet those standards and often exceed them. So while I understand your concerns about relative to kids we all have concerns about kids we know too.
I mention only the kids I know as the cause for my raising the question.
Right, and it gets raised, and we've all heard this sometimes about special ed. It could be about anything else, any of other policies. There are some people who feel like their kids aren't being treated as well as they could be if we were, to do things differently. That's sort of the nature of how we go about it. It's tricky to navigate those waters, especially as our charge is to not be involved in the day-to-day administration of the district. It's just to, handle policy and budget and hire the superintendent. So it can get a little tricky. Does anybody else have anything?
I just wanted to, given that I've worked on all the various policies, particularly that one, and my discussions with the superintendent and the CPAC.
Sorry, I can't hear you, Mr. Baker.
The focus of the policy is in terms of that the school committee, obviously is required to follow the law and the escalation. The law is very specific about where the boundaries and what the escalation procedures are. I can make it clear that the discussions I've had with the superintendent and the special ed director is cost is not what the deciding factor is. It's the terminology, I believe, in the law and by policy is least restrictive environment. There, and that's an assessment that the school committee is not qualified to make, if I understand the technical and professional certifications required to make such an assessment there. We only set the direction for the superintendent and the administration, and that's what the policy does. The policy does not state, as you had stated at the beginning of the meeting.
It would appear that the stringency with which the policy is implemented has led us to have 22% of our students classified as
Well,
special
it's not a
ed.
policy.
Well, no.
It's a law.
I'm saying the question of how we are applying it. Do we enforce 55 miles an hour when someone's going 57, or do we go 60? It's a question of degree that I'm looking at, because we seem to be out of balance with the rest of the state by a fairly large number. 22%, 22.1% to 17% is a fairly large discrepancy, and that's what I'm addressing.
So if I can just summarize, so
Sure.
I'm sure I'm hearing you correctly. The first component is you're familiar with two students that you personally feel would do better in an outside placement.
And I mentioned that as a personal opinion.
Right. Now, if that is the case, I would recommend that the parents follow the protocol, and if they're unaware of the appeal process, please have them come and see me, and we will certainly make sure they are aware. By law, they are notified, just so you know.
Yeah, they have been.
The second component about identification rates, I'd be very cautious before you start doing comparisons of states. When you do comparisons, you need to do them with demographically similar populations. We are a small district. 1% is a lot larger in this district than it is with a district with 15 or 20,000 students. We are committed and passionate about providing interventions to students that will help them be successful within the Littleton Public Schools. So I just wanted to clarify that with you, that be cautionary of statistics, because sometimes they tell a story that's completely opposite to what one would think.
If the story was clearer, I would not have had this question.
Well, I thank
But
you for bringing it
I can
forward.
state, I can give you names of probably 20 children that fall into that 22% that are absolutely thrilled with the services they're getting.
No, I'm not saying they aren't, but I'm just questioning the policy, because there seems to be something out of whack with the rest of the state, and I'm looking for an explanation. I want to make sure that our students are getting the best care that they can. We have an excellent school district. I want to see it be better.
Alec, to comment?
Yeah, thank you. I think we all want the school district to be better, and while we are very cognizant of the special education needs of our students, I think what's been said already, that it's not a policy, it's the law that we're following, is pretty right. Now, we could argue all night about individual students. Should the student have gotten out-of-district services rather than in-district services? We could do that all night. But when you look at that number, 22% of students versus the state average of, what, 17? That is not indicative of how often we have out-of-district placements. It's indicative of the students who come in, whether they're in the district or not, whether they're in the regular education program or whether they're in a special education program or not. That number is just indicative of how many students have IEPs, I believe that's right. It doesn't.
That's correct.
It doesn't indicate. Rather, I should say, it's not directly correlated with the number of students we send out of district. So while I saw that number a couple of months ago, and I think we had our Pupil Services Director, Rita Detweiler, start looking into why that number might be pretty high relative to the rest of the state average. I don't think it's an issue with how stringent we are or not in terms of following the law. There's a very specific procedure set out by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and this is governed by both state and federal laws and how we handle this. So it's not that this district has any particular way of addressing this issue. It's the law. So what I wanted to say is, I think we all share your concern about where that 22% number is coming from. But I don't see the connect with this particular
Worth 80
issue.
students, the difference between 17 and 22% is worth 80 students.
That's right.
It's not an insignificant number.
I don't disagree. I think it's a pretty significant number because that's, what, a 20-25% increase. I agree that that's a significant number. I don't think it's related to what you're asking about.
And just one last point. We did have a private company come in and do a sped review with our district, K through 12. The report hasn't been released yet. I have seen the preliminary findings, and they felt that our identification and our processes and practices were right on par with coinciding with law and appropriate policy. So just wanted to share that with you as well.
All right,
Okay. My concern is the spirit of the law as opposed to the letter of the law.
I understand.
Thank you.
thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Any other interested citizens? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is a report from our negotiation committee. We're also joined by our town administrator, Keith Bergman, who's representing the selectmen as part of that process. And PJ, I'm going to throw that to you.
All right, thank you. Folks, you know that we've been in negotiations with the Littleton Education Association for a new 3-year contract. The current one would expire 31 August this year. We have come to an agreement with the LEA, and what I'd like to do this evening is just give a quick little background of what we did to get to this agreement, and then the highlights of the particular agreement. And as the chairman noted, that Mark Levine, the president of the association, is here with us this evening. And welcome, Mark. Thanks very much for being here this evening.
Mark, you're behind Ethan. I couldn't see you. Sorry, buddy.
And our town administrator, who will be a member of the voting body on this particular thing, this particular contract this evening when we do take it to a vote. We did what was called interest-based bargaining. It's a slight bit different from what we had done previously, and actually quite a bit differently, where it was somewhat adversarial. We used the soft term as we were working together with the LEA, soft adversarial, because we never, and Mark, if I get out of bounds, hit me. That's when it got hard. But very seriously, 2 previous times that I've been on the negotiating committee here for the town and the school district with the LEA, we used an adversarial. Pretty much, I'd like this, and the other side would say, I'd like this, and at some point, as it going back and forth, we winnow it down and an agreement comes about. This time, we approached it, and it was based on a recommendation from our superintendent, Kelly Clenchy. We look at interest-based bargaining, and what we mean by that is, what's in our interests? We certainly have shared interests when it comes to the teachers, the rest of the educational department, and certainly the administration, the school committee, and the town as a whole. And certainly those interests are the children, the students. We all share that. And then it broke down into various other things. You know, hire and maintain quality staff was a shared interest for us. And as we began winning down a little bit and a little bit deeper, digging deeper and deeper into it, we settled on roughly a dozen or so items that we felt was a shared interest. And from there is where we began to discuss. And it wasn't a bargaining session per se, it was truly discussion. Why is this a shared interest? What's important? And we started getting into the specific elements perhaps of each of those areas. Initially we had a facilitator work with us. As we were moving along, we felt confident enough in ourselves as a team, and then it became a team versus 2 teams discussing it, is how do we best do this? And we swapped back and forth as far as whether it be the LEA or the school committee facilitating a particular meeting. So that's the sort of atmosphere that existed, and it was a very congenial and amicable atmosphere. So here's where we arrived at. Just roughly, it's 4 weeks ago now, and then take time to iron it all out, make sure we had things down on paper correctly, and the association was able to present it to its membership for ratification, which took place last evening, or yesterday, and then now for presentation here to the school committee tonight. And what I'd like to do is take you through the highlights. First off, the contract term, it's 3 years. It will begin 1 September of 14 and take us through 31 August of 2017. How's that, folks? Cost of living allowances, we worked it, it wasn't a straight put against the particular salary of a particular percentage. We looked at a subset of the population of the of the teachers, and applied a 3% raise to, in essence, half the population, and it was the more senior. And the reason that we felt that was a shared interest is as we looked at the previous contracts, those on the grid, and the terminology we use on the grid, that are actually getting steps over the year 1, year 2, year 3, receiving a raise, and depending on where a teacher may be with their bachelor's, master's, or whatever, somewhere between 10 and 13 years, they would stop receiving raises that way. So again, that shared interest was that the teachers with more experience were in line for a better bump than the entire population overall. And then what we looked at is going into year 2 and year 3, and that is a 1% and 2% over those 2 years. Nurses, actually, I have to be quite candid, we received quite an education. Certainly we all think we know what nurses do for the most part. And those of us that may be a tad bit older and remember the school nurse when we were back in school, that job has exploded, and that's no hyperbole. The amount of work that our nurses have to do now. So the shared interest there was better compensation, and a compensation more in line with really what their responsibilities and duties are. So we did do that. We came up with 6 steps with them, and initially we had 3 previous to this contract, and we also added a master's lane, where we only had a bachelor's lane previously. Professional development, you may recall a little over a year ago I talked that we certainly talked professional development. We weren't quite doing the walk. Over this past year, I think we're walking it better, and then moving forward with this decision that we made and agreed to, we'll be walking the walk a heck of a lot better as far as professional development for our educators. And that is because we always offered $2,000 towards professional development to the year, but because of the way the state university system works and the state college system works, anybody that's familiar with that and paying tuition's pretty low in the state of Massachusetts. Fees are astronomical. And when the total bill comes in, it's an astronomical bill. And we were only covering tuition, which was putting the teachers at a bit of a disadvantage. And in some instances, actually, it made better sense to go to a more expensive school where it would be all tuition. So, again, a shared interest is how do we contain those costs and get both professional development and then keep it within lines. So now fees are covered there also. Stipends, We had certainly a significant number of folks who were participating, whether it's athletic coaches, after-school activity mentors, monitors, advisors, and not all of them were in the contract. They were being paid, so the cost of the town was the same, where it is a bit different, and it will cost the town a couple extra dollars as we go forward into the years. And we put those stipends into the contract. By including them in the contracts, they are now retirement eligible, and that's the cost of the town there. A lot of those stipends are in the $2,000 or so range, depending annually, or for the particular activity, better way to say that. We looked at early release hours. We had a pilot program this year of 3 early release days and 1 night conference, and that was to deal with conferences. We went permanent with that program. So no change to it, just the pilot program is made permanent. Originally, we had a weekly pay for the teachers. We're going to go bi-weekly, which saves a little bit of paperwork and some manpower over the course of the year for the town. No impact on salary. Between the educators and the town administrators, we are going to come to a system so that it's not a boom on one particular day, no paycheck shows up. So we'll work through that. And that becomes effective 1 September of 2015. So we've got a year to go to that. Bereavement leave is a little bit more complex than it needed to be, and certainly given the situation that bereavement leave would be met out. And that says bereavement leave was 5 days, but 3 of the days came out of annual leave. So what we did is we said, let's just put that. It seems industry standard, if you will, going around different industries. 3 was a nominal number, and we agreed that 3 bereavement days are it, and there's no impact to annual leave on that. And speaking of annual leave, we did change it from 15 to 16, and the reason for that is the teachers are working an extra day. You say, well, what the heck's an extra day? Well, it's about roughly 0.5%. So if you start putting that into salary minds, from 181 to 182 days, the teachers are giving us more than they had previously, so we're certainly appreciative of that. Our release times, 12 early release as we had previously, and 1 full day, and it's that extra day of work. And that gets back to the professional development and the commitment that we made and the LEA has made also to that. We worked on the contract language. Even though it's about 21 years since or so since we had education reform in the state of Massachusetts, we still had some things that, in essence, were really against the law. Law usually triumphs over contract, so we'd been doing okay over the years, but we just brought the contract language more in line with the actual state law is, and federal law in some instances. And then the teacher evaluation. Anybody that's paying any attention to the newspapers here recently, we know it's state law, and for this past year, the LEA and the superintendent, most specifically, have been working towards that. And we're well on the way to having district-determined measures and then also student impact ratings as part of that as we go forward. So that's in a nutshell. I'll certainly entertain any questions.
It's a big nut. It's a big nut.
Questions?
Yeah, just a couple. On the professional development, you talked about the change from to cover fees. There's no net increase in the benefit that, or
Correct.
benefit that we're providing. It's still $2,000. so-
Liability was $2,000 per teacher per year, and that remains the same.
Okay, just how we're apportioning it out. Okay. And then the other one, I'd messaged you separately on, there was, in the draft previous contract that I had, the salary table had, that we're using as the basis for editing, had TBD for the 2013, 2014 piece salary. So I'd like to just make sure we have the final salary table that we're using as the basis for this contract incorporated as part of this meeting.
Sure. And that's it. And that'll be part of the motion that we go forward, is that they be included. Does that cover?
Yes.
Okay. Any other term?
No, that's it.
No.
Just make a comment. PJ and I were on the negotiation team, and the process that Kelly put forward, and actually applied and got a grant from the Gates Foundation, was it?
Correct.
Which paid for us to go through training and educate the LEA as well as the 3 of us on this process. It was a fantastic experience for me personally, and I think I can say the same for everybody that was involved in the training. As PJ mentioned, we all got to a point where we didn't need the facilitator any longer, and we just kind of self-managed ourselves. We were a self-managed team, and I think it was a great process. It was my first experience with the negotiations. Mike and PJ have had it the last couple of times, and just based on some conversations that we had as a group, I think it was a much easier process for everybody involved. And the fact that we're sitting here tonight on May 22nd with something in hand, I think speaks to all those involved in the process. And I'd like to say thank you to the LEA and to PJ and Kelly for facilitating this for us. Mr. Bergman.
I just wanted to congratulate the bargaining teams on being able to, as was just said, reach an agreement so early. It's always great when that can happen so far in advance of the expiration of the current contract. Speak on behalf of myself and the town administration. I want to thank the school committee and the administration for its cooperation in having us sort of confirm and verify the numbers that we're all using as our common frames of reference, and here tonight to vote to support the contract.
All right. Mark Levine, would you have any comments? Would you like to?
No, again, it was a very smooth process. Everything went well. It was collegial, if that's the best word for it. It wasn't adversarial. There were times where the discussions got a little bit, don't want to say intense, but we were sort of feeling out our oats. But again, that we came to an agreement this soon that I think is a very good agreement for the teachers, for the town, for the students. And just to give you an idea of how smoothly things went, we made it a part of our regular meetings where before we would meet, we would have dinner together. And so it was a time to talk and socialize and experience each other as people and as townspeople and as colleagues as opposed to adversaries. So thank you.
I'd like to echo Chuck's comments as a veteran of the last two contract negotiations and now participating in this one, how much work it is, and thank the other teachers on the negotiating team for the LEA, because that's a lot of work and it's a big commitment, it really is. But it's also probably one of the most important things that we do together. It's great to me personally to know that we really don't have to think about this for a good 2.5 years. That hasn't been the case over the last two contracts that we ratified. It felt like we'd get done and then turn around and jump right back in the pool again. So that's nice that we get to take a little break from that. I think that's going to be beneficial to all of us, and we can move forward. So
Nobody wants to see me in the pool. Sorry, mental image.
All right, so any other comments?
I'd just like to echo, Chuck really spoke well about how the IBB, the interest-based bargaining process, fosters goodwill, and I think that's important. What's also important is that saves money, because when you can facilitate yourselves, you don't need to pay someone to be there to facilitate between the two teams. That's money in the district that we can be spending on education, and that's what we're here to do. So I want to thank both the LEA and the school committee's team for that good work.
Superintendent Clenchey, do you have any comments about the contract or the negotiations?
Well, I'm just very pleased with the process. It was nice to be able to see it come together, having used the process for over 10 years myself. It's never the same. It's always different wherever you go, and it really does take a change in mindset. And I just want to commend everybody that was involved. It's not easy to convert over to that kind of process, and I think we did very well. We of course had to go back to the guiding principles every now and again, but that's part of learning how to do it. So I'd just like to thank everybody involved, and it was fun, and I'm thrilled that we have a contract before us this evening.
All right, given that, we're ready to entertain a motion.
Yes, sir. Motion to approve the MOA to be dated 22 May 2014, agreed to by the LEA and the school committee, and ratified by the LEA on 21 May 2014, and inclusive to the MOA, the bargaining unit salary tables for fiscal years 15, 16, and 17, and that the MOA and the inclusive bargaining unit salary tables be made part of the school committee's meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion's been made, seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion is read?
Aye.
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 I'll forward that to you, Bettina.
6 unanimous votes, 6 votes, unanimous. Yeah. Ms. Levine, can you mind approaching the table for a moment?
No,
Mr. Ravello would like to
I want to personally thank you.
shake hands.
And please extend our congratulations and gratitude to everybody on the team. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, now the signing ceremony. Do we have the pens, the ceremonial pens? You get to sign it, buddy. There's 3 copies for you to sign.
All right, I will take care of that while we move on with the rest of the agenda. We have, Kelly, some presentations.
Yes, we do. Before we get started this evening, though, I noticed out in the audience, we have our new Case Collaborative Director, Mike Baldessare. I'd like to welcome Mike to our meeting. Mike took over, it's almost been a year, I can't believe that. I was on the hiring committee that hired Mike. I'm also the vice chair of the Collaborative. And for the audience, the Collaborative originated a number of years ago to bring surrounding districts together to provide out-of-district services for students that we otherwise wouldn't be able to provide in-house. So the program is thriving under Mike's leadership. Mike has had a lot of great ideas and has had an opportunity to implement a number of them this year. Very pleased with what we see. We also added a Case classroom to the high school, and it's been received very well, and that really is in essence part of what we're here this evening for. So, Dr. Harrington, I'm not sure whether you want to take over from now, but or for now. If not, I can just continue on. We have 3 students with us this evening: Maggie and 2 Emilys. So Emily Sullivan and Emily Imbrognia. I'd like to welcome the 3 of you to the meeting, and I understand that we have a new high school chapter, Best Buddies chapter. And I'd also like to acknowledge Lisa Boone. I understand that she has also been involved in the process and has exercised quite a bit to make this happen in terms of a 100-mile bike ride. So I'll turn it over to you at this point.
So first, we're sorry that Maggie isn't here tonight. She had another commitment that she had to attend, but we've got our Emily's here.
Right, the 2 Emilys.
So we are the leaders of the Best Buddies Club at the high school. And Best Buddies is an organization that serves young adults with intellectual and social differences. Best Buddies meets the need in college programs, high school, and middle school. And the population that is included in our school is Case Collaborative students, but we plan to expand it to students with all kinds of social differences.
And a big part of our club is encouraging other students to join. So we have announcements on upcoming events, we have posters, and we also include as many of our buddies as we can in public events to see how much fun it is and to try and encourage other students to join. And we have a program called Peer Buddies, which is an assigned one-on-one relationship between a student with an intellectual and social difference and a student from the club. And they're matched by surveys that we've composed, and we take these students with the most compatible answers and we match them. And they're required to have 1 outing a month. And it's just a way to have a more established one-on-one connection with our buddies.
And these outings can be anything at all, whether it's attending a basketball game, going to the school play, really anything that you can think of. And we meet presently weekly within the school grounds every Thursday after school from 2 to 3. And you could say that we spend even more time with that with our outings outside of school. And our fundraisers, which include, at the beginning of the year, we did a movie night, which involved both, everybody involved with Best Buddies. So it was a chance for us to bond and also raise money for our club.
And the goal of the program is basically student involvement. And being a part of the club, it enhances social skills, and it can also help you make friendships that are cherished and that will last a lifetime and that will mean more to someone with an intellectual and social difference than most people could even understand.
So now that we are a part of the chapter, there are many benefits that come along with this. And so first, we now have a representative who is able to contact us about different opportunities that we can now participate in. We are allowed to advertise using the name Best Buddies. With in us, at the beginning of the year, we were using a Z to be able to advertise. And these opportunities that our representative informs us about include different events that we can attend and different fundraisers that we can be involved in.
And we also have a leadership conference coming up it's actually in Indiana. And it's a weekend conference, and basically we learn important things like fundraisers and learning how to encourage other people to join, and just general information that the Best Buddies program as a whole wants at least one representative from each chapter member to be aware of.
And this conference also allows us to be able to network with people from all over the country who also participate in Best Buddies, so that's something that's really powerful. However, there is a cost for us to attend, and it is a requirement for at least one of the members to attend in order to stay a chapter of Best Buddies every year. So it'll cost about $300 for a plane ticket for one person to attend, and so far we have raised enough money for one person to attend, but we would really like to get 2 more people to go. So we estimate that we'll need around like $600 or more.
It's
$900.
It's $450 for a ticket, for an airline ticket. And I will also be going as the advisor with the girls. And we already have enough for one of the girls to go, and we're hoping that 2 can go. One being Emily Sullivan, the other being Maggie, who isn't here, and myself.
I won't be able to make it this year, but I would really like to go next year.
And we also already raised enough money for our registration fee, which was $350? $300. So now we just need the rest. So yeah. Do you have any questions?
How can people make donations online?
We're going to have a website, so we just became an official chapter last week. So now that we have that, we can have a website that Best Buddies is providing us with where donations can be made. Yes.
This is actually quite an accomplishment. Our school system had been on the wait list to become an official Best Buddies chapter for 3.5 years. There had been a lot of, at the middle school level at that time, which when we first got our name on the list, was when our health teacher had initiated a program similar to it. And these girls had started in that program and really found that it was, not only beneficial to the students that they were becoming, comfortable with, close with, gaining a relationship with, but it was beneficial to themselves to have a greater understanding of this population that sometimes people are uncomfortable with. And so when they moved on to the high school, there was no Best Buddies program, and they wanted to initiate something, and it was not easy for them to do that on their own. And with our support and pushing them, and then they actually pushed to have this on their own. So it was really nice to see that the students grew from the middle school and then became so, interested in continuing on and seeing the benefits go on to the upper levels. And so through this, Nancy and I had kept calling and saying, how soon can we get this done? Because without being invited through the wait list, it's a significantly greater fee, about $9,000 now, to join as a chapter. It waives the $300 fee per year, but it's still so significant it's almost impossible to raise that for a small district like us. So this was really a great accomplishment. And so it does, they also have people from the Best Buddies organization who come in and help with training and give them the support that they need. And the fundraising is meant, not only for them to go to the conference and to have the chapter fee, but for the activities that they're doing, so it doesn't actually cost the students anything to participate. So that's what their goal for that is too. So the CPAC certainly is here and wants to support as much as we can the students, but it is a student-led group, and they're doing a fantastic job. These girls are, only freshmen and sophomores. So I'm really impressed with their initiative and their determination to get this done.
Alex?
Thank you. I dropped in on a CPAC meeting last week and happened upon this this program and these students who have done so much, and the staff that have done so much to make this happen. It's not just beneficial to the students in the Buddies program directly, but also when you take them to sports games, when you take them to school plays. That helps bring the community together. It helps show the students who are in the CASE Collaborative program at LHS, it helps show them that LHS is their community, even if they're, during the school day, they might be in some CASE programs. It still shows them that it's their school. And it also is, I think, a valuable lesson for the two of you, and then of course, for everyone helping who's not here tonight, in how to work with major nonprofits. That sometimes there's a lot of bureaucracy there, and you're on the waiting list for a couple of years, and learning how to push through that, and working with the school administration to make sure everything is on board and all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. And then of course with Lisa and the CPAC being able to help out a little bit in terms of helping you get to the conference. I think that's very valuable. And I think once you get there, it'll be valuable too. You'll have a lot of great networking opportunities, you'll be learning a lot, and you'll be building connections with each other and with people you haven't met yet that I think will last a very long time. So I want to thank you for all the work you've done and that you will continue to do. And Lisa mentioned how you were both a sophomore and a freshman, so that just means you're just going to keep doing this for a while. So we're counting on that because it's a lot of great work, and it's very important. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us here tonight.
Anybody else? No?
I just want to also welcome Nancy Taylor, our CASE collaborative teacher. Nancy's been with us for almost a year now, and I just wanted to congratulate Nancy on bringing the program into the high school and integrating it into the school. It's part of our school now, and they've been active in many ways. They helped set up our seniors' luncheon and had a great time doing that, and it's very appreciative of the program. And if I could, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Mike, but Mike sees a number of programs in many districts throughout the region, and Mike and I have had a number of conversations about why Littleton is so special in terms of CASE program placements.
And I was going to stand up earlier and just offer a thank you to Principals Branco and Harrington and Bazzillo. We have 22 CASE programs across 13 school districts. 5 of those are housed in the Littleton Public Schools. We have 2 classrooms at the Russell Street School, one for children with social and emotional disabilities, and another for students who are on the spectrum. We have 2 classrooms at Littleton Middle School. One is for children who are developmentally disabled, and another for students who are on the spectrum. And then we have the class that is now at Littleton High School that we are so very proud of. And the integration that Emily and Maggie have brought, that they legitimately brought to our classes is the most welcome. And your community is very welcoming to our students. For those of you who don't know about CASE, we educate about 150 students who are developmentally disabled, socially and emotionally disabled, or autistic. And we educate those children in the public schools. So we run the programs. They're considered outplacements, but all of our placements take place in the regular education to the maximum extent possible in the regular education buildings. And so that allows us to provide a different level of least restrictive environment, because where the children will have to have very specifically designed instruction, they're also provided with opportunities to participate with their same-aged peers in other classes, in lunch, in physical education, and many other opportunities throughout the school day, which are inclusive of times of celebration and, as you can see, extracurricular activities. I can't be more grateful and thankful for your leadership, Dr. Clenchey, for the school committee to allow the partnership with CASE to take place, and I look forward to many years of service to you and to your community. If you have any questions about CASE in particular, I'm happy to answer since I'm here this evening.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mike.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Girls, the last thing I would say is this, is as you get the fundraising ball rolling, stay in touch with the administration, and they'll help you use all the communication channels to make a notice, and you see us around all the time, so just tap us. We're soft touches. We'll definitely cough it up. All right?
Thank you.
No, that's what I wanted to make sure is when you do get your website stuff, if the administration could put it on the,
Of
you know,
course.
Best Buddies is now an official part of the school, so it would be appropriate to have a link to their site so that we could direct people to it.
Be more than happy to. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then in terms of questions on the case collaborative, what I would prefer is I hate to ask you to come back, but I'm gonna, if we can get it on the agenda to do a more formal presentation, a more in-depth presentation, and we can prepare, we can see it ahead of time, we can prepare our questions accordingly. I think that would be great, because we hear a lot about the case collaborative, and we know how important it is, but we've never really had, at least not in recent memory, a really good presentation on it that gets into the details and the nuts and bolts of how it works and how beneficial it can be. I think that would be worthwhile to put on a future agenda.
Yeah, I would be delighted to do that. And so if you just provide me with the date that works for this committee, I'd be happy to be here.
Excellent.
We'll
Thank
certainly
you.
work on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Just one other tidbit of information. We also house the summer program for the entire region for Case students. So we've done that for 2 years now, entering our 3rd year.
More than 100 students in that program, by the way.
Excellent.
Thanks again.
Good. Is the curriculum update?
Once a year, we are blessed with having our curriculum coordinators come and visit us. And our curriculum coordinators work with Jerry Lynn, our director of curriculum, and help implement district initiatives and initiatives that are created at the school level, and obviously state and federal levels. And I have to commend all of them on doing a fine job. One of the many things that they've done since we've created this model is help us align our curriculum both vertically and horizontally. And in some of our schools, that's a little easier done than others. Some of our schools, we have one teacher teaching the subject, so they can talk to themselves and decide how to create an electronic green print of their curriculum and assessment structure. But in other schools, we have up to 5 teachers, 6 teachers teaching the same subjects. And that becomes a little more interesting when you're trying to design a curriculum and be consistent in terms of what you've taught. I think we've done a phenomenal job in this district of creating a solid curricula that's challenging. And it's a result of all the hard work that we've done as a district with a common vision and a common mission. And they're the ones that are out there in the trenches working with their respective staffs, helping the message get delivered and also lending a helping hand to ensure that it actually happens. So on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Jerry Lynn, and we can start from there.
Good evening. It's my pleasure as a Director of Curriculum to present the reports on the state of the curriculum. These reports are a little different format this year. What we have in the packet is a compilation of PowerPoint presentations from each of the individual curriculum coordinators, starting with one that I prepared with Mrs. Kelly Rogers, the K-5 Math and Science Instructional Support Specialist. We'll be outlining some of the initiatives at the elementary level, which forms foundations for the upper level department-based work. I want to say that the curriculum coordinators show extensive instructional and curricular leadership within each of the departments. I recognize the time frame and the attention that it takes to read a packet that involves numerous presentations. Each of us will be coming up and talking about in the order of the presentations here in the packet. We'll be following that order tonight. And again, any questions? In English language arts at the elementary level, actually as well as the secondary level, one of the major initiatives this year was to align instructional practices with shifts in reading and writing standards based on the Common Core state standards. It's not a total revamp. I want to emphasize it was not a total revamp, but more of a refinement and emphasis on certain aspects of instruction. That emphasis called for an increased focus on informational text, and providing high-quality, challenging texts, both literary and nonfiction, and giving students the skills to interact with the high-quality, challenging literature and nonfiction texts. Teachers develop close reading lessons, and helping students have the independent reading skills to deal with that more challenging material and build academic vocabulary. There was an emphasis. You would always hear about the questions would be not text itself, but having the students stay within the four corners of the text to understand the author's perspective, to build their own perspective, and to build their own arguments. In writing, there was an emphasis on building clarity with different types of writing, both narrative, informational, explanatory, and argument. In terms of initiatives within our schools, I need to add my words to that of the Russell Street principal and the superintendent championing a pilot at Russell Street, Achieve 3000. This is a program that actually exemplifies a major thrust of the Common Core state standards. It's a whole school reading intervention providing extensive exposure to an interaction with nonfiction text. We're working to take a look at, through a study group, we're working to build a study group exploring programs that exemplify and are aligned with the Common Core. We've had overviews of 2 programs, program considerations, emphasize the same things that I talked about earlier, academic language, reading and writing, grounded in evidence from text. The next slide that I have outlines the content at the elementary level by grade level in 4 domains of science. And it's not just to keep academic content dry in science, but we have an inquiry-based program which emphasizes students becoming actively involved, making real-world connections, building their own hypotheses, and exploring and uncovering science rather than covering science. Highlights at Shaker Lane this year in terms of science is Shaker Lane teachers' involvement and students' involvement in a grant through the Concord Consortium, which gives kids the opportunity to explore with technology the world around them, specifically gathering data on temperature and heat. The emphasis with the grade 3 to 5 science this year, teachers, is on technology, applying technology and engineering skills. You've heard, the school committee and parents have heard a lot about Everyday Math program. Littleton's been involved, has adopted and implemented the Everyday Math program since 2001. We've had differing updates and differing iterations of that program. The program qualities that need to be emphasized include the online interactive components, both for parents and for students. What we are pleased to announce is that what will be available at the primary school level for the Shaker Lane level would be a program enhancement which shows greater alignment with the Common Core standards. That alignment with the Common Core standards may not be finished for the intermediate grade 3 to 5 level until 2015. Those are the foundational programs and initiatives in ELA, math, and science. And so our next report involves English language arts for grades 6 to 12.
Yeah, actually, let me hold up for one
Sure.
second. Do you guys want to do questions presentation by presentation, or do you just want to? Anybody have a preference? It's going to be a lot of material, there's no question about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I find it easier personally just to do them as they're there instead of having them come back.
Okay.
That makes more sense.
All right, let's do that. Okay. All right.
Never see Mr. Levine.
But don't go
I've been
too
waiting to
far.
do that.
Feels good. All right, questions for?
Since I
Yeah, exactly.
figured I
You
had
asked
one,
for it.
right? Math programs there's a whole bunch of different ones. Everyday math is sometimes considered one of some areas controversial relative to some of the rigor and when it emphasizes different parts of it. You mentioned about the alignment to the Common Core. Which program is currently aligned and will be aligned there, and has the, I guess, rigor is
Okay.
not necessarily the right word I want to use in the piece here, but in terms of making sure that it's setting the right foundations for our students as they move through, because again, I've heard a lot of people, there's a lot of controversy about any math program.
There are
Everyday Math
controversies
has
around everyday math in terms of how some algorithms are taught. It doesn't reflect the math that parents were taught. We had the 2012. We adopted the 2012 version of Everyday Math, which was the first version that had the online components that teachers, parents, and students were pleased to have. But the Common Core standards were just on board. So the alignment in terms of mathematical practice and certain habits of mind, and sort of the crosswalk between some Common Core, an emphasis on the scope and sequence of Common Core standards, which dug deeper in some content, in some grades on certain content areas, was not fully aligned. And so teachers had to do a crosswalk between some of the units in the 2012 Everyday Math program and some mathematical learning, some learning standards for math. I think it would lead to increased rigor just in terms of drilling deeper on fewer standards than wider on a broad number of standards. That would be the easiest way that I would.
And then
What
what grade is next year? And
Well, this is what we're dealing with. When we met with the Everyday Math program folks, Shaker Lane and the Shaker Lane principal walked out, was happier than we were for Russell Street, because the addition for grades 3 to 5 would not be finished as of this September. That's the one drawback. So teachers would have to have more planning. Teachers at Russell Street will be involved in more planning in terms of that crosswalk between the standards.
And we'll have consistency across all of the teachers using the same supplemental material? Or?
In terms of the program components, we buy the same thing for every faculty member.
Let me help you out a bit. The days of using one resource are long gone.
Right.
We are multiple resource user. We can call it a primary resource or a skeletal resource, any phrase you want, but that doesn't hold us hostage to teaching the curriculum or teaching the standards. So we look at this as a baseline in which to take off from. Now remember, we have curriculum strands or curriculum guides aligned K through 12. So teachers have an opportunity to look at those guides and obviously have discussions with the size of our schools. It's not that hard to do. That we're allowed to monitor those resources and build those resources in time. I'd like to think of it as an evergreen curriculum rather than a blueprint. So I hope that helps. I would hate to ever be a district that relied on a single textbook source. I think that would be.
No,
going
it
back
was,
into
it
the
was
70s.
more in terms of making sure that any of the gaps that are within the everyday math as it aligns to both our internal needs and needs imposed by the state, and then the consistency in the process that we're using to make sure that and how those gaps are. I just needed to hear back a little bit more on that.
Darryl, that really is taken care of to a certain degree with our curriculum mapping, because that's where those holes are found and discovered and are filled in with other materials.
And that's where the crosswalk is documented.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Good job.
Okay, now
Thank you.
we progress to our next.
Until I get permission.
Yes. You guys, rise, approach.
1, 2, 3, green light.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Levine. I'll be reporting on the English curriculum. That's me. I like Shakespearean insults. They're always like the most fun. There were lots of different initiatives that we had with the English curriculum this year. 6 through 12, trying to pick out a couple of things were difficult. At middle school, we started to evaluate our entire vocabulary program, determine how are we doing, why are we doing things the way that we're doing. In the process, we got turned on to Achieve 3000, which Russell Street is using, so we're very excited to see how that works out. One of the things that we did this year that's not very traditional. Normally with English, it's reading and writing. But with the Common Core, with the Massachusetts frameworks, we had to address listening and speaking skills, but that's much more clearly delineated with the Common Core. And so we started to introduce something voluntarily this year, something that we call the Grade 8 Talks. It was a way for students to speak to their classmates about something that they were passionate about, something about which they were knowledgeable. It didn't require a lot of new research for them, but it did require a lot of preparation. I had some students, because the students who did the Grade 8 talk could do so in lieu of an essay. And the essay that was required was just due last week, and some of the kids who did the essay said, "Oh God, I wish I had done the Grade 8 talk. It seems so much easier." And the kids who did it were like, no, it was not easier. Because we had a very clearly set out protocol, the students had to first come up with their ideas, they had to conference with me, they were given guidance on how they would be assessed. They would be assessed, for instance, on how many ums or uhs or likes they used. The student audience would be part of the assessment process. The student audience was also counseled and assessed on their listening skills. I had talked to a couple of colleagues who work at a Quaker school, and it's a K through 8 school. And every day they have something that they call meeting time. And meeting time is a quiet, contemplative time. People can talk if they want to, but it's a time to sit and think. And I said, well, wow, what's that like for the kindergarten and first graders? And they said, these kids are learning how to sit and be quiet and then how to listen. And I realized that's a skill we don't teach anymore. I talked to my students and I asked them, when you're with your friends and you're all talking, are you listening and what are you really doing? And some of them said, well, I'm waiting for my turn to talk. So that's exactly it. All together too often we aren't listening. And then we talked about how do we demonstrate to somebody that we're listening. And they were like, well, you nod and you laugh in the right spots. And I said, that's how you look like you're listening. How do we listen? And so we had a big discussion in class about listening skills and how do we actually do that. And then when it came around to the performance piece, and that it's easier to listen if the person is engaging. And we started to talk about that piece, how this is a relationship between the audience and the performer. And that if the performer is engaging, then it's very easy to listen, and then you want to listen. And so it becomes this very relationship-building exercise, not just in listening and speaking and organizing and talking in front of a group, but also in the relationship. That ultimately what I hope is that this becomes part of the English curriculum, and it's something that every student does, and that ultimately every student looks forward to, where, oh, I'm giving my Grade 8 talk next week. It becomes that sort of relationship thing where I'm going to tell you something new about me. We taped the videos of the kids this year, so they could share them with their parents. Some kids talked about skateboarding. Some kids talked about how to do a monologue. One student trained the other students on how to speak ubby-dubby. If you're an old fan of Zoom, you remember that language. So we're hopeful that that will continue, and that in that the English department will start to look at English not just in the reading and writing, but also in the listening and speaking realm. We also, at the, I said num. At the high school level, there had been a concern about meeting the needs of all students, not just the students at the lower levels, but the students at the upper levels. And there was a concern that students weren't being properly placed year by year by year. And so what the natural discussion became using data to inform the decisions. And so we started to implement a protocol for recommending students for honors or CP at the high school that hopefully will be adopted by the other departments as well. It involves using the grade 8 and the 7th grade MCAS scores, the 8th grade score, term grades for term 1 and term 2, and then also an assessment that was designed by the English teachers at the high school that will assess the students' writing ability, but also assess their ability and their knowledge for basic literary terms, grammatical terms. And that, we're using these different barometers, these different measures, try to adequately and more properly place students in honors or CP to inform the decision, basically. The other piece that we did, along with every other department, is we worked on our district-determined measures. As Mr. Clenchey mentioned earlier, for some buildings, like the middle school, I'm the 8th grade English teacher. I can talk to myself about what are we going to use for our DDMs, but at the high school level it becomes more difficult because you've got multiple teachers teaching the same subject and the DDMs have to be the same. And so they worked very, very hard to come up with different district-determined measures, some of which are assessing writing skills, some are pre and post on grammatical skills or literary terms, reading ability. And so we gave the entire list to Jerry Lynn, and so now she has a list of what every teacher in the English department is planning on using for DDMs. Again, we did a lot of different work, a lot of different things this year. We, of course, we're working with our alignment with the Common Core, continuing to work on students with their reading and writing skills as well. But it was a very good year. Started off the year looking at our MCAS scores and our SAT scores, and we're still rocking. So, any questions?
Start that next time.
Did you hear about the grade 8 talks during a TED Talk?
No, actually, there are different schools, different private schools that do this. They do different talks as part of it. But we use the TED Talks as a way to sort of inform the students and as an example for what to do, what the expectations were. And so we watched one on, there's a performer named Tom Thumb, and he's like a human beatbox. It's really, really cool what he does. But so the kids initially are like, they're just kind of like, and as he starts going, they're like, and by the end they're just rapt. And, we start talking about what did he do, how did he do it, and then they do another one where it's interactive multiplayer thumb wrestling, where you can thumb wrestle with 5, 10, 15 people. And so I show the kids that as well as an example of this is the kind of thing we're looking for sort of a TED Talk, but a little bit, lower key. Kids who wanted to use multimedia, we welcome that. Some students were singing, some were showing how to do, point dancing. It ran the gamut. It really ran the gamut. It was really exciting to watch. Dr. Branco was there with Ms. Dorfman for a lot of them, and they were really fantastic. And these were for the first time out of the gate, I was just completely impressed. Completely impressed.
Are they all done for the year?
They're done for the year. We did it one time just as a pilot. Like I say, I'm hopeful. What I would love to see happen is that it become a part of the school culture, where the students will present not just to their class, and then initially it would probably start off with just their classroom because it's a safer environment, but ultimately what I'd like to see is that the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are watching 8th graders present, and the 6th graders learn how to behave appropriately, how to listen, how to act. The guiding force for me, and what I kept reminding the students was, the audience is giving a gift to the presenter of time and attention. And so the presenter needs to respect that by being good and entertaining and engaging. Likewise, the presenter, if they're doing a really good job, are being engaging. They're giving us a gift. And so we as listeners need to respect that. And so this mutual respect going back and forth, I think, can go a long way towards combating a lot of the ills that confront a middle school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's the purpose of listening? Do we teach a purpose?
Are you going to listen to his answer?
Why, so I can listen?
I think the purpose of listening is it's the part of communication that we pay less attention to, particularly in instruction, but it's the easiest one to fake. It's the easiest one to ignore, and I think it's probably the most important one because, as I said, far too often we aren't listening. We're hearing, but we're not actually listening. We're not focusing in on what is the other person saying. I think that's one of the reasons that the IBB worked this time around. Because rather than being, here's what I want, we talked, we listened. I think that's such a powerful skill that is going a little bit by the wayside. I think, teaching kids at a very young age to sit quietly and to listen and to focus, I think that's a very, very, very powerful thing.
The purpose for my question, phrased that way, is because while it's easy to listen to an engaging speaker, such as it was easy to listen to you this evening, because you were certainly very animated, sometimes it's important to teach listening because you must learn to listen. Whether or not the speaker, the presenter, is a good comedian, a good actor, or whatever it is, the message may be very important. If somebody says, don't eat the poison fish in a very calm voice, and I'm not entertained by that, I eat the poison fish, or don't eat the poison fish, get your attention.
Right.
So that's the reason I asked that purpose question. All this is good in helping it. This is not a critique of what you are doing, but I certainly want to hear that there's a purpose behind listening, and it's not just to be entertained. It's to learn.
No.
And it's to achieve information so that you can process and move on and do bigger and better things yourself personally. So the way you presented it is the gift of time in both directions. It's also an investment, and it needs to be taught, I believe, as the listener. You are now investing in something. Get a good return on that investment. So learn how to listen so you do learn.
Excellent point.
Back when I went to parochial school, you had to learn how to listen or you get whacked with a ruler. Can't do that anymore.
Probably shouldn't have done it back then either. That's beside the point.
Teaching turned out fine. I have a quick question for you relative to, you personally allowed your students to attend Much Ado for some credit. And I was present at all three shows, and I will say that they appeared to be listening. They were very engaged, and I don't know if you got any feedback from them.
They thought it was fantastic. They really thought it was fantastic. We spend, a good portion of the year, probably about 5-6 weeks, going through Much Ado.
Right.
And it's one of my favorite pieces of Shakespeare. And I know that the kids seeing it, because we talk about that, about how Shakespeare did not intend for us to read his writing. He didn't ever publish it. He wanted us to go see the play, because then he got paid. But seeing it acted out, and then seeing it acted out by your peers, and hey, I know him, and it was riveting. The kids did a fantastic job on the production of it, and the kids who went to it, universally loved it, absolutely loved it. Yeah, it wasn't a chore. It wasn't like oh, I got to go to this. They were animated.
It appeared that way.
Yeah.
One question. I think last year we was talking about writing, school-wide writing, not necessarily just focused within the ELA program there. And could you just touch a little bit on sort of consistency of writing and the theme of how that's been integrated into and sort of an update
For the English curriculum, or
maybe it may be more holistic than just the English curriculum. But one of the things parents are sometimes concerned about is we're focusing on this part, and then writing might go by the wayside for a while. So just in terms of consistency of writing, and then how it's maybe integrated in with across the other pieces.
Well, we actually did that. We did an exercise between the middle school and the high school, where we brought examples of work up to the high school, some current 8th grade writing, and some last year's writing, and showed examples. And okay, what are your expectations? We also did that. We were given a gift of time with Diana Malkin, and at both the middle school level and the high school level, we were looking at student writing, grades 6, 7, and 8, and examining it, actually looking at student work and assessing it to determine, is there a natural progression of expectation and skill level?
We've always focused on, using the text to inform in the writing. That was something that was part of the Massachusetts frameworks. It's a big part of the Common Core right now. We were pleased to see, over the course of the year, because we were worried that the Common Core, on its face, looks like the English department is required to have much more informational writing, but that's not necessarily the case. The entire curriculum is expected to have more. There's been a lot more attention to writing at in the history and science curriculum, which my colleagues will be able to address, but Ms. Finnerty here has been doing for years a research paper related to the science program, so we have very high expectations. I'm consistently pleased with the level of writing. And as I tell the students, what I want to see in the 8th grade, and I know what my colleagues in the 6th, 7th, and at the high school want, is just to see improvement. And over the course of the time, we have consistent higher expectations throughout the course of the year, and then the next year, those expectations are raised a little bit more so that students, they're not getting slammed with it, they're not getting overwhelmed with it, but they're little by little by little. And I hear this consistently from students who have gone through the program. I was actually talking to a professor at Edinburgh University who his lament is that students are ending up in college not being able to write a proper paper. And I consistently hear from students who have come through our program that they get to college knowing how to write a proper paper, that they are invested, that they know how to write with good voice, they know how to write cleanly, they know how to use information from the text to defend their opinion. So consistently, our writing standards are, I think, quite rigorous, and can continue to be so. I hope so.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. 27 ums. Huh?
27 ums.
Really? Did you count?
Don't worry, Eddie.
Don't count mine.
Beth Morgan will go over the history and social sciences.
Before I get into our department, I do want to say two things about the speeches Mr. Levine was talking about. One was that I'm his next-door neighbor at the middle school, and it was interesting because I learned just from a few of the speeches some talents that some of the students had that I wasn't aware of, so that was cool, and I stopped class and listened. The second thing is that when I was in 8th grade, we had a Toastmasters set up. We did speeches, we had judges. I still remember it, including one speech where I should have won, I think, that I can tell you about. But so it's just like really interesting to hear, this many years later, just a new emphasis on speaking, and I think it's really important, public speaking and the listening. I think when I was listening to Mr. Levine, I was thinking how at home sometimes I'm accused of not listening, and sometimes I'm not. So when my husband's trying to go over details or whatever. Anyway, so I just wanted to kind of support what Mr. Levine was doing with the 8th graders as something that was done in the past, historically in my life, and that I had the pleasure of enjoying a little bit being next door. Anyway, these are my colleagues in our department. A little hard to see, but there we are, all 7 of us. And I organized the presentation around some themes I thought were important that I think we do well in and that I like to emphasize. So the first is technology. I think our department uses technology in lots of different ways, whether it be research, applying information the kids are learning, instruction in terms of learning new information, and also letting other people know what we're doing, such as with our Twitter accounts, which I encourage all of you or any of you to subscribe to. Mr. Baker, your wife is one of my subscribers, or followers, I should say, followers. And there's a good number of teachers in the district that are using Twitter, and it's like a real easy, quick way to see what's going on. And a lot of us have pictures. So I think I want to advocate for it because you can see on a daily basis kind of what we're doing, and just the cool stuff that I like seeing what the 2nd graders or 5th graders are doing, and so I think one important thing for us is to kind of share with the world and the outside community, which is our followers are mainly in Littleton, but just like what we're doing. I got a response from the Stanford History Education Group, which has a lot of primary sources that the high school teachers and I have been using. I was so excited. So I would encourage, I might if I remember, email you all of our Twitter handles in case you're interested in subscribing to us. Anyway, so that's technology. Also, there's a lot of research going on, and the bullets didn't come through on this particular version of the PowerPoint, but I tried to include all the different types of research that our department's doing. So, for example, the freshmen are writing a research paper that they need to use a minimum of 7 sources. I was like, whoa, I was impressed with that. One example of a topic that they might have researched was support or refute the statement, the French Revolution would not have advanced as rapidly as it did had it not been for the actions of women. And then there was a whole list of lots of topics. I just picked that particular one. As for the AP U.S. history papers, one was the transition of Littleton from an agricultural community to a suburban community in the mid-20th century. And these are being presented on a Wednesday, June 11th in the evening at the Reuben Hoare Library. The high school teachers worked really hard last summer and in the fall to develop a research curriculum for the department so that there would be consistency in how the students wrote research, and it has some of the topics involved in their research guide or research curriculum, annotated bibliographies, creating a strong thesis, and making and using footnotes. Those are some of the topics. We also were fortunate enough this year to have the ABC Clio databases as a resource for research. These databases have articles from historians, primary sources, including photos, video, clips, government documents, current events, and they include both world and U.S. history topics. The next 3 slides all deal with connections to modern times or experiential learning. So to me, one of the really important things is to make history alive and current, since a lot of it is not, or most of it's not. So I think our department is doing a great job of connecting what we need to teach according to the Massachusetts frameworks with the outside world and modern and current events or things that are going on in the world. So here are some middle school topics. We have, these are some high school topics. One thing that it's on the next slide, sorry. I probably talked about this last year because I know the students did it last year, but the original 21st century amendments that were created in the US 1 honors classes, some of the topics of those were universal health care, the national debt, affordable college. So I think it's great that the students are actually thinking about events that are topics that are important and talked about a lot in our world today. There's a video on YouTube of one of Susan Harvey's classes reciting the Gettysburg Address. So I love YouTube, so I thought that was cool. I watched that. There was a special, I think it was there was an anniversary of the Gettysburg Address this year, so there was a push for things around the Gettysburg Address. On this slide, the first item, some of the sophomores visited, juniors visited the Fort Devens Museum to research different aspects of life, and I was in a class when there was a presentation going on. It was great. I loved it. It was on sports and recreation. I love sports. Fort Devens had a service club where they had many items, but some that caught my attention: the Hillbilly Talent Show, crossword puzzle contest, and charades. So that was just one little part of that presentation, but I thought that was really interesting, and I think that's something students remember when they actually realize what history happened in their community or close to their community. At least that's some of what I remember when I was studying history in high school. And lastly, this slide just talks about the various ways at the middle school we educate the students on different religions. So these religions are part of the frameworks. And to me, or to all of us, it's important for the students to kind of be aware of the major religions in the world. And they're going to hear about these in the news. They're going to meet people of these different religions throughout their lives. And I think it's important for them to have a basic understanding, or hopefully by 10 years from now, hopefully they'll have a clue as to what the 5 pillars of Islam are, or other aspects of different religions, so that they are just well-rounded people that are aware of the diversity that's out in the world. I did want to also mention that Mr. Jabai, the 7th grade ancient history teacher, is going to be teaching a class this summer, Mastering Content in History, Social Studies, and the Classics. He also presented at NELMS this year, and I think I just wanted to congratulate, kind of publicly state what he is going to be working on, because I was impressed that he was organized and was selected to teach a class to other teachers. I think we've done a good job. I know Mr. Baker asked about writing. You asked Mr. Levy about writing. And the research slide would detail a lot of the writing that goes on. I think we do a lot of writing in other areas, but we did look at open response writing on assessments this year in the department. And it was interesting, and we looked at the progression from 6th to 11th grade, and we had a discussion about that. So I think we're always trying to get our students to be better writers. The trick in history is that they need to know the facts, they need to know them accurately, and they need to be able to write and to support a thesis. And it's sometimes tricky for some of them in terms of the analyzing, but we're always trying to help them do better and work on that. So that's about it for the history department.
Questions?
Really? All right, you're going to make me now. No, I wanted to thank you for pointing out the tie back to the other question there, because I think what prompted it is some parents are not always seeing that the English class is teaching all of the writing. And by having it integrated as part of the other ones, and your response sort of tied that together, and is what I was looking for.
I'm sure if we had all of us here and they talked about their correcting load, they could tell you about all the writing going on, because it's, they, especially, I mean, the high school research papers are long. I do not remember writing papers that long in high school, and I went, you know, my program was strong, and I'm really impressed with the commitment that the teachers and that they make to helping the students and to achieve like such great, such big writing tasks.
Knox County.
I had a professor in college actually talk to me in my sophomore year telling me I said like too much. I'll never forget it. So hopefully I didn't say too much.
Thank you. It's really exciting to see some of those current events being worked in there. I had a question in terms of how we engage students in terms of the state history and the state constitution. Is that brought up at all?
I'm not personally aware of how the state constitution is integrated. It hasn't come up in my discussions the past couple years. I feel like that's the state history is maybe at Russell Street a little more than in our curriculum. From what it's not, or maybe early colonial history. It comes up a little bit in U.S. history, but I'm not sure that it's part of our frameworks. But I don't have them memorized either. So, but I feel So that's. But I know. The in U.S. history, there's they're looking at a lot of Littleton history. So that's I think it's cool, personally, but
yeah, it's great.
And it's something I still remember a project I did when I was a junior high school, and when I got pictures from what my town used to look like, and it was bigger than Littleton, but I still remember this newspaper that I made, and it sticks. I think it sticks with you, with the students.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I think about what our students need once they graduate, once they go out into the world, once they're able to vote. I see so many things that the history department, the humanities department, I should say, is addressing. One of those things that I think students absolutely need is the civics, and it's exciting to see some of this being done now at the high school and at the middle school, and certainly at the younger grades as well. Although sometimes I wonder how much it trickles up, how much of it is lost to the memory of the students. But when we look at civics and how to engage students, I'm curious to see how we can engage students not just in the history of their town and their state, but also in the current government, and teaching kids, because there's so much to access, and I think sometimes it can be daunting. We had a presentation from the Best Buddy students earlier, and I spoke a little bit about how to get through bureaucracy and how sometimes with a national organization you will need that. And you certainly need that when it comes to dealing with government. If you not necessarily our graduates, but once they get older, if they're waiting for a social security check and it's not coming, if it's a snowstorm and they need access to housing, or if the heat turned on, how do they get that from their local or state or federal government, whatever the issue may be? Those are skills that I think we need to be teaching kids, and I think a lot we in Littleton are making sure that a lot of students get that because we can know them individually, and I know at the APUS level they do a lot of that work and a lot of that local history and understanding where we are now as a town. But I'm wondering how we can address that for everyone, for every student, so that when every student graduates, whether or not they took AP United States history, how much do they know about their local town government? How much do they know about their state history and their state government beyond what is covered in U.S. history?
I mean, I'll write it, when I get back to my seat, I'll write down your interests, and, you know, I can talk about it with the department, and we can see what, you know, get feedback from them and see maybe moving forward how that can be integrated into their classes. I think also probably the law and citizenship class probably addresses a lot of government bureaucracy, you know, laws, a little bit maybe about the bureaucracy you're talking about. Not necessarily, I mean, it's not straight a government class, but I think and that's an elective, so not every student's going to be exposed to that, but my guess is that class addresses some of what you're talking about. But I'll write down what you've mentioned and talk to them about it.
And when you sit down, take a breath too, because you've been doing so much work, and you're doing so much work. So.
Well, I didn't do any singing, so I still have thought about it.
Much more coming through the graduation.
Anyway.
Beth, I would like to
I didn't cry, no.
the importance of teaching good cognitive skills so that causation comes into play as they're learning history. History is not just a story that can be read. History is a story that we can learn from, and we should be learning from it. And it sounds like some of the things you said that you're approaching that, which is very, very good. Because when we look at what's going on in the world, any part of the world, let's take something topical, Crimea right now. Certainly there's a difference of opinion as to who Crimea should belong to. Right now, in a very regional sense, might was made right in that particular case. And being able to, for the kids to be able to learn these sorts of things, and sometimes what may seem fair, it's not an issue at all. It's the history, it's the politics of the area, how it all comes into play, and geography comes into play of all this also. And we could say, somebody can make the case of, pick a country, doesn't matter, should have done something to prevent the Russians from going into Crimea if we were to take that position. The thing is, who's in a position to do that? Geography comes into play. What are a nation's militaries? What are their political factions? What are the politics within a country? What's the diplomacy that's in? And bringing all that in. So certainly learning how to get your Social Security check from Social Security Administration is important. Fortunately, we've got good websites that help us with that nowadays. The things you said really hit on what I see as very, very important that we teach in history and in the social studies. And that is to learn from what has gone before us, and now how do we apply it to today so that we can shape the future. That's where you become a stellar teacher.
We're trying, yeah. I mean, and some of the issues, I teach world history, so anti-Semitism, I mean, there's a crazy, sad history in our world of anti-Semitism, and every year, I'll be like, in Bedford, they had issues with their schools and anti-Semitism, and I'm like, guys, this is still something that happens, and I'm teaching about world history, but here it is, 20 minutes away, and in this, there's definitely themes, and hopefully we're helping our students to not make some of the mistakes that people in the past have made, and to understand, why our world is the way it is, and hopefully make it better. I mean, I think that's what we're all hoping that we're doing along the way.
Well done, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, next up,
Keep singing.
I have a new song to record in the next week or two. Yep, I do. I'm serious. All right, math is next.
Hello. Let's see.
One more time.
Here we go. All right. I'm going to try to make this quick and move things along. At the middle school, this is our third year working with the Glencoe McGraw-Hill textbook adoption. Students are still finding a lot of success with this text, as well as the teachers. The teachers feel that the transition in the curriculum is going very smoothly. The online textbooks is a 5-year subscription, and right now we have 2 more years left in the subscription, and after that we have to decide if we're going to renew. Most students are placed properly within the 7th and 8th grade due to these textbooks. Teacher recommendations really can show where these students should be placed. As we stand, our 6th grade is not leveled, but the 7th and 8th grades are. And in the 7th grade, we have a pre-algebra, which is our upper level course, and a grade 7 course. And the 8th grade has the Algebra 1 course and an 8th grade math course, which is the same as the pre-algebra class. In grades 7 and 8, the MCAS scores were really good this year. In grade 7, we had a 74% student being placed in the advanced or proficient range. And 8th grade, they had 75% in advanced or proficient. This year, both the 7th and 8th grade upper level math courses, the Algebra 1 and the pre-algebra course, tried an introduction to a flipped classroom. And what they did was they they tried this about once a week in their math classes. Both Lynn Pristorino and Rachel Schultz attended professional development to learn more about this type of teaching. And the feedback that I got was that although both the students and teachers felt that the face-to-face time was truly very valuable, they thought that this was nice to change the pace and things, and everybody seemed to enjoy the experience. As of this fall, all the grades at the middle school were fully aligned to the Common Core. Grades 7 and 8 felt that the course expectations due to the Common Core have greatly increased. There's a lot more to be taught in all those classes. A couple months ago, we did have a change in our department due to a medical leave, and since then, Miss Joanne Derry has stepped in, and she's worked really hard with the kids to make sure that the kids are ready for the MCAS and any upcoming courses. At the high school, AP exams were done in both calculus and statistics. Last year, 17 students took the AP Calculus exam, and 11 of them earned a 5, which is the highest level, and 5 of them earned 4s. This year, 15 students took the AP Calculus exam. Also, this is the 3rd year running an honors level statistics course. And although it's not an AP course, last year 19 students took the AP statistics exam, and 9 students passed with a 3 or higher on that exam. This year, 14 students took the AP statistics class. Let's see, on May 7th, the LHS Algebra 2 students participated in the end-of-the-year PARCC exam. This was an interesting day, to say the least. All our students worked so hard, and I have to say, if any of them were watching, I'm sure they are. I was very proud of them. We thought they would totally give up, and they worked beyond the time that was allotted. They worked into the extra time, and they took it very seriously. For the most part, they took a test for 4 hours, which was amazing. And in the end, they were very happy to go back and take the MCAS exam. They thought it was a piece of cake, and I'm ready to do this again next year because they were so psyched to take it the next week, the MCAS. Let's see, on December 9th, the week of December 9th, all the LHS mathematics students participated in the Hour of Code during National Computer Science Week. Since then, LHS has joined with code.org to develop an Exploring Computer Science course that will run next year. Let's see, this is also the third year with the textbook adoption in Algebra 1 and Geometry. Both classes, I have to say, have benefited greatly from these updated textbooks. These textbooks are fully aligned to the Common Core, and we really do believe that, if possible, other courses in the high school would benefit from updated textbooks that include the Common Core. Right now, we are supplementing, especially in our Algebra 2 course this year, because we are building our classes to include the Common Core. We are really supplementing a lot because the textbook that we currently have is not aligned to the Common Core and is missing a lot of topics. Let's see. Beginning next year, all LHS students will have a 4-year math requirement. The class of 2014 is our final class that does not have this requirement, although approximately 90% of the senior class did enroll in a mathematics class this year. This is a 4-year, this 4-year requirement is due to an upcoming prerequisite from the Massachusetts State Colleges and Universities. They're expecting students to come in with at least 4 years of math, and that is coming up soon. We can definitely see the increase of our class sizes over the years, and we're looking at the projected numbers for next year's enrollments. The classes are going to be pretty large. In the fall of 2014, so upcoming fall, all our math courses, every single one, will be fully aligned to the Common Core. The curriculum has been updated over the years, following the cohort of students that started with the updated Algebra 1 textbook adoption. Students in Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 have done fantastically with all the updated curriculum. The increase in rigor can be seen all around with not only the amount of topics that these kids now have to learn, but also the type of questions that are being asked. I can say personally, my Algebra 2 course last year, my Algebra 2 course this year has changed greatly. In fact, I gave the final exam that I gave last year, I gave it at my midterm this year. I also want to give a big hurrah to Mr. Ray Streeter, who has volunteered to be a math tutor twice a week for the past 7 years, and I just want to mention him and thank him publicly. Oops, back up. No. Oh, that's it. That's my pretty picture. Okay. Just a few recognitions. This year will be the 7th year that LHS has been participating in the New England Math League. This is a national contest. It is 6 contests, 6 times a year. We have had up to 90 students at a time taking this test or this contest after school on their own time in the cafeteria. It is absolutely fantastic to see close to 100 students working on math at the same time, and they're all your kids. Really kind of cool. Also, this year we had a group of students go to the WPI mathematics meet in October. It's a team of 4 students, and they have to take both an individual contest and a team contest. There's approximately 100 schools, high school teams from all over New England. This year we did pretty well. We ranked in the top 20 of this meet, and Ethan Rombacher walked away with the highest scoring individual for LHS, and he won a $1,000 scholarship to WPI if he attends. We also attended the Merrimack College Math Contest. This one's pretty cool because I got to participate. Only graduates and current students of Merrimack can attend this contest, and the trick is that one person in the team has to be participating and be a college Merrimack alum or student. So we had faculty teams, we had alumni teams, we had current student teams, and there were 4 high school teams. And Littleton came in 2nd overall out of all the teams, and we were the top scoring high school team for the 2nd year in a row. So we are taken down the high school teams. And soon we'll be taking down that faculty team that beat us. Just saying, they beat us by one question. And finally, earlier in the year, Littleton High School received a commendation letter from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. The recognition was for high achievement and high progress on the grade 10 MCAS in mathematics. Last year, 93% of our grade 10 students scored advanced or proficient. And that's what I got.
Good work, Hal.
All right, grade 6
So far, she's getting all the pool money unless somebody else can pull it off.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm Valerie Finnerty, and I'm here to talk to you about grade 6 to 12 science. I organized my slides by school, and then I had second thoughts, and now I thought about some themes. I realized that I had 3 themes that I featured in my updates. One was that we are, as a department, we're really pushing our science, technology, and engineering programs to be more innovative, to prepare students to take science classes at the college level and to go into science, technology, and engineering careers. That's where there's a lot of jobs out there. We are also working on integrating the Common Core in English language arts in particular, and also in connecting our instruction to real-life experiences and connecting to things that the kids encounter every day. Okay, so that's my first, that's the last one, I think. I get really nervous up here. So we had 4 of us went to the Massachusetts Association of Science Teachers Standards launch event in November. So you may not be aware, but there are, well, you're probably aware that there are new national standards that have been adopted by many states, and in Massachusetts we are taking those standards and twisting them and devising our own standards. So the draft standards were released this year, and they're scheduled to be adopted in the 2016 and 2017 school year. So we spent some time at the middle school and the high school looking at those standards and looking to see how they're going to be affecting our curriculum. 4 of us also went to the National Science Teachers Association conference that was in Boston again this year. And then at the middle school, we have been working a lot on the Common Core also. We have been focusing on science vocabulary. This is one of our DDMs that we chose for next year. And we have been looking at science-specific curriculum, science-specific vocabulary. And we took it right from the MCAS, released MCAS, so that we can see where kids' understanding of science vocabulary is affecting their understanding of the concepts, especially because our test that the kids take in middle school is in the 8th grade, and it covers 6th, 7th, and 8th grade science. So we are going to do a piloting of that next month, and then implement it next year in September, and then again in June. We have been using the new Chromebook carts a lot at the middle school. I can really speak for the 8th grade, where we have used them extensively for writing. So in response to Daryl's question, we use them, well, with the science and engineering fair. The kids have to do a lot of writing, so they start with a research paper that where they find out all about their science topic and write a full-blown research paper with citations, parenthetical citations, and they revise it. They can redo it and resubmit it. They also write collaboratively with their lab partners, so each of them has to write their own review of literature, but they write collaboratively for the rest of their science fair lab reports. So they write procedures, they write analysis, they do the mathematics involved in the analysis, and they write about them, and they draw conclusions. We also have participated in the Boston College Science Poetry Contest. I think it's been 4 years now, and we always have winners. I get to send 35 entries, and we had 5 students this year that won, including a first place winner. I excerpted some of her poem on the next page. And also today, yesterday and today, I had my students work on argumentative writing in the 8th grade. So we have been studying chemistry, and we had been focusing on polymers and looking at polymers, in particular plastic, and also looking at plastic pollution. So this week we made some biopolymers, some bioplastics out of milk, and then one out of potato starch. And we've been looking at the plastic that ends up in the ocean. And I had them do some readings for homework on some of the current issues in plastics, in both pollution and in some new engineering and technology projects where they're working on coming up with safer plastics and plastics that can decompose. So I proposed the question to them yesterday, do you think that Littleton should ban plastic bags? And so they gathered some information. I gave them some readings that covered both sides of the issue. They had to take notes on both sides, and today I asked them to take a stand, and I have been working with them on writing an argumentative response. So that's one way that I'm integrating the Common Core. I know that you've already heard about Todd Shoemaker winning the award after the Day of Code, or the Hour of Code Day, and he purchased a lot of robotics kits and software, and he's going to be starting that technology piece next year. Very excited about that. We're collaborating with him on that, looking at adding some programming. Let's see. And then just to finish up with the middle school, I just included some pictures. There's an excerpt from Ellen's poem called I Am H2O. And then I also included some pictures from my classroom. A big focus at the middle school is that science is hands-on. It's the kids have hands-on experiences so that they can take that to relate to what they've learned about that's more abstract. So we've been studying chemistry, and they perform chemical experiments. And then we have also been using Legos to model what happens in the reactions. So the picture down here on the bottom left, you really can't see it very well, but they have used Legos to model photosynthesis. We also used Legos to model many things, including the polymers, the starch polymer that we use to make the potato plastic. So using these kinds of models really helps kids to make these invisible concepts like atoms and molecules concrete. So we've also had a big focus this year at the middle school on the curriculum review, and we've done a lot of work, and we still have a lot of work to do. We inventoried our curriculum and aligned it with, across the grade levels, looking to see how we align with the current standards. We've done this before, but we needed to do it again because we're always changing our curriculum and refreshing it and adding new things. And then we also, we've added the Common Core, and how did what we do with the Common Core help to meet the science and technology standards. And then we looked at the draft standards, and we're used those standards to see how are things going to change at the middle school. And we realized that the scope and sequence is going to change somewhat. There's some concepts that are taken out and some that are added in. Things like weather and electricity that we haven't taught at the middle school. They had been in elementary school up until now. And engineering will be integrated in. It's not a separate piece. It's going to be integrated within the standards, so that when we're teaching, say, chemistry, we would also look at chemical engineering at the same time. And also it focuses more on integrating the processes of science instead of just the concepts involved in science. So we looked at that. We're kind of stuck because the draft standards are just a draft at this point, and so we're looking at new curriculum, but none of the new curriculum is aligned with the standards because the standards have not yet been released. So we're really looking at making, designing a curriculum and updating our curriculum. We are focusing on digital media to support our curriculum, and we're looking at integrating engineering better than we do now, and more use of technology. So we've been looking at probeware that can be used wirelessly to upload data from experiments to analyze using graphs, and then to write and print and to pull it all together. I think it'll be very rich. So that's where we've gotten. We have some curricula that we've identified that we're going to look at. We're planning to work this summer to evaluate some middle school curricula and obtain some samples and prepare to pilot some of these. We are also going to inventory the equipment and technology that we have now, because when we moved into the new building, I think it was 7 years ago, we had one day to move in and we had all this new stuff, and we need to make a list and see what everybody has and what kind of shape it's in and what things have been used and when things haven't been used, because we don't want to purchase things that we already have. We want to know what's missing and where are missing, where we have things that we can use. We'd also like to conduct a shared reading of a book to help us to move forward as we design our new curriculum. Now to the high school. So physics continues to be a strength at the high school, and the physics department, the physics, AP Physics program has been divided into two as of next year, so there'll be AP Physics 1 and AP Physics 2. Dan Hogan is a workhorse. He just works, and he takes on so much, and he's teaching those concurrently. So we'll have kids in the same class that he's, where they will be taking both courses, and he's also looking to add AP Physics C, which is a mechanics, so that's another branch of the AP Physics family that has been developed. So this is a lot of work for him as he develops these new courses. So I really admire what he's been doing. He also ran a campaign to Donors Choose, and he managed to raise enough money to get a new 3D printer. He's decided he's going to be running the engineering program next year also, and he is looking to raise more money so that he can get the pieces he needs to develop a makerspace, which is a very cutting-edge idea in science and technology and engineering education, where students design and create things, all kinds of things. So he is rejuvenating the engineering program. He is also looking at helping the kids who take the engineering class to get a SolidWorks certification, which has been very useful in the past for kids as they go to college. They've been able to get jobs as TAs, helping other students who don't know how to use SolidWorks. It's a great marketable skill for a job. And he did want me to let you know that he's concerned because both physics and engineering are very heavily enrolled. The engineering courses are over-enrolled, and kids will have to be turned back. So because these are such important career paths, I think that that's something that we need to think about. So in chemistry, the chemistry teachers did a lot of work this year to organize and inventory their chemistry lab. So we had some personnel changes this year. And so they were able to go through and identify unknown chemicals that weren't labeled and safely dispose of them, and or label them, as the case may be, and also created an organizational system. They showed me their closet last week or 2 weeks ago when I was there for a meeting, and it was very impressive, very nice. They also used a professional day and visited a chemistry lab at Ashland High School, and they learned about how the teachers there have a student-centered laboratory, so they've been implementing some of those ideas to help Littleton students take a more active role in their designing their experiments in the laboratory. Also, the AP Chemistry had been proposed, but it's not going to be offered because it would require a lot of purchases and personnel training and changes in order to implement that. So. And then in biology, there's been a new course developed for incoming ninth graders. This has been talked about for a couple of years, and it's for particular students who need to work on their scientific reading and writing skills to help them to be more successful in high school science courses. So I recommended these students by consulting with my 8th grade colleagues and the special ed teachers in some cases. And these students will be in a program where they will come out of it really with much stronger scientific reading and writing skills. And then finally, the 2 biology teachers have also been working on vocabulary, as have the chemistry teachers for their DDMs. And they've been working on Tier 2 vocabulary, which is actually not necessarily scientific vocabulary, but vocabulary that's important in many disciplines, such as the word synthesize, which is used a lot in science, but it's across the domain. So they're trying to identify vocabulary words which will be important for kids to know in all different classes, and they're hoping to work with the ELA department to develop teaching strategies. So are there any questions for me? Thanks. So Liz Kelly's up next to tell you about world languages.
No, sorry, we didn't get all the way to the end yet.
So first, I just want
Nice
to
try, though. That was a good try.
You just have so much to cover, so I've just got to ask some questions. With the robotics kits, I just wanted to speak to Starbase, which we did at the Russell Street School this past school year, and I remember visiting, and the kids were using robotics kits, and I introduced myself, and I was chatting with them, and sort of explained the role of a school committee member as, in general and vaguely, sort of helping assist, teachers and administrators and having what they need to be in the classroom. And I said, so do you have any feedback? And they said, yeah, we want robotics kits. So, I mean, I'm not taking credit for this. It's all the heavy lifting of you and your team, but it is very cool that they'll get that continuity, because I know they're very excited about that, those fifth graders. In terms of the enrollment issue, the over-enrollment in the engineering 1 and 2, I say that partly as it's a nice problem to have, in part because it means our engineering programs are so successful that they're drawing students who want to be participating in this great class and these great courses. My question is, what are those numbers? And if you don't have them offhand, if you do, that'd be great. If not, that's
I have
fine.
them at home. I have down that 106 students signed up for physics courses for next year, and I'm not sure about engineering.
Yeah, I was
You
just
have that off
looking
the
at
top of
them
your head?
Just yesterday, actually.
Right.
Engineering is divided up into, well, you're
One
looking
and
at running
two.
two different sections of engineering 1 and engineering 2. It's a semester course. So we may have to prioritize, certain students who are in junior, senior year and defer the other students. It's not so much turning away as deferring them until later. Prioritizing senior students, this would be their opportunity, their one opportunity to take the course.
I want to say it was about 40 in each course.
Pretty high. Well, we only have one teacher too, so I
Right.
mean, that's the thing. And
there'd be
part
one
of the
section
attraction for
offered
the
each.
course is the teacher, and expertise that he's bringing, and the fine marketing job, publicity he's generated for his course too.
Yes.
He's done a great job.
That's
with it.
right.
He's talked it up. So, and kids that they're going to, learn marketable skills when they graduate, or or participate in this course.
And we're only able to offer one of those engineering courses a semester, so one section of engineering,
Right, because
one the first
he's in
semester.
such great demand.
He's doing the AP
he's a
physics, he's
teacher.
doing- yep.
He does AP physics. He
Mhm.
also teaches the physics
And-
honors and the physics CP.
Mhm.
So it's a personnel constraint.
This is really preliminary. The process that we use is first of all, the administration makes recommendations to the superintendent. I haven't even heard this yet, so that's how premature this is. In all fairness to the process, as a principal, John has decisions to make every year in terms of where kids are placed, and we're doing a good job with the resources that we have. Could we use more? Of course we could. Go to any district and that's what they will tell you. I think we're doing a fine job with what we have. I'm anxious to see those numbers. I mean, we've talked a number of times around this table that enrollment is increasing as a result of smaller class sizes going through the high school, and we're also retaining more students from middle school to high school. It's a concern or an awareness, more correctly, that we have. But it's like anything else. We need to strategically plan and see what we can do to take care of
Yeah.
all areas of our system.
Yeah, and I just add to the superintendent's comments to say that one of our recommendations, if we see this trend in the strong interest continue, our recommendations will be, in the budget early on in the process, will be for additional personnel to, help offset that and meet the needs of the kids. That's our
I
priority.
appreciate that, because I was going to bring up the same point that Alex brought up, and I like the way you're answering it. I mean, there's a short-term issue that needs to be dealt with relative to next year's classes and assignment of classes, but also the fact that you're thinking about, looking at it to see if it is a trend and how it needs to be dealt with, whether it's a reallocation of resources or additional resources. As a school committee member, as long as I know that the staff is evaluating on an ongoing basis, then we can deal with it as we go forward.
Right.
But Alex, like you said, it's a good problem to have in a lot of ways. If kids are enthusiastic about
Yeah.
one thing or another, that's good. We'll just got to do the best we can to make it not crash because of that, and all of a sudden it's not as rewarding experience and the enthusiasm dies out on an unfortunate basis.
And on that note, and with engineering, I think as you said, with the juniors and the seniors, that might make it easier. If we have 40 kids trying to enroll and half are seniors, that's an easy decision to make, because then the following year you have 20 students who are still seniors, and then it sort of works itself out. You'd ideally like to be able to support them all at the same time, but sometimes that doesn't work in a small district like ours. The other question I have is with AP Chemistry. This is I think this is the third year where it's been something we've been trying to do, and we haven't been able to do it. In terms of personnel and cost, what are those? Because we might not be able to provide them, but at least having an awareness of what the needs are, whatever the gap is between where we are and where we want to be in terms of offering AP Chemistry, knowing what that is, I think would be great.
Well, we could present on that as we propose, it's a couple of things, though. We have a lot of computing science AP courses. We have AP Psychology now. It's sort of a blend between social science and science. In high school, it's taught by a science teacher. We have AP Biology. Now this new configuration with AP Physics. So there's a lot of AP courses already at a small high school competing for student time, and we only have a 7-period schedule. So we have to think about, as we set the courses up to compete against for the same
group of students. That's right.
How we would space it and how we would clear it so students take it at different years, junior and senior. The recommendation from the science department was to defer, actually, based on the current science department, based on how we're going to employ the science teachers to teach the various electives. We still teach forensics and environmental science, along with some other electives in the science department. And so we only have, again, it's somewhat of a personnel constraint. And we also have to have the expertise of the staff to teach the course. There's a professional development piece potentially there that would cost some money, and some, and of course, the lab equipment is estimated between $10,000 and $12,000. So we'd have to build, if that's where we want to go, we have to build that into the budget, but also not just from the equipment supply piece, but making sure that we can stretch our personnel across all the courses.
As well as student body.
Something would have to give if we're going to add AP Chemistry with our existing staff.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say something to that too? Because we have talked about, as a team about offering different courses to trying to meet the needs of the kids. And so not all the kids want to take an AP science class. And so there's been talk about adding a biotechnology course, or I know that one of the chemistry teachers is very interested in adding another type of chemistry course, an organic chemistry course. So we've been talking about this, but it does require a lot of time and trying to figure out what is going to give, because there are very popular courses that students like to take at the CP level, at the honors level, at the AP level. And so we need to have a balance of science courses offered.
Okay.
So that was one of the issues that came up.
Thanks. That's helpful for our situational awareness, as I hear a lot about AP Chem. I'm sure some of my colleagues do as well.
I've been here talking about it, proposing it for
That's right.
years. And this year, the recommendation is not to have progress studies next year.
Thank you.
A couple of issues considerations that weren't mentioned. When we were considering implementing AP Chemistry 2 years ago, we realized that they were revamping the AP course. So it was better to wait. No sense spending $13,000 and spending another $13,000. Another initiative that we all are aware of is going or signing on with Code.org is going to have us have an AP Computing Science course within a 2-year period. Principal and his staff and our central office team has had many discussions about where are the parameters of a high school of our size in terms of being able to be a full-service high school, and yet at the same time avail our students of all the opportunities that we could ever imagine. And our request has been for a number of years now to cement a dual enrollment partnership with a university or a college. We cannot do everything ourselves, folks. It's impossible. And it's really very hard to hire a .1 or a .2 teacher in a specialty area. There may be an opportunity to combine with a college and for lack of a better phrase, have an adjunct professor come in and do a nanotechnology course, for example. We need to start looking beyond the walls of our configuration as we move forward. All your research that I've sent you alludes to those facts. And although it's admirable, we want to do everything ourselves, we also have to remember one word that we talk about a lot around this table, and that is affordability. We have to stay within a range of affordability for our community. So lots to consider, lots to talk about as we move forward with the 2020 vision.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so Liz Kelly's up next.
Billy. The whole row of chairs, you can lay down across and you else have to go. If you don't, I might.
Hola.
Salve. Bonjour.
I'm waiting for a reply.
So.
Thank you for having us. My name is Liz Kelly, and I'm the Latin teacher and the World Languages Curriculum Coordinator. And I have really, I hope, boiled down a lot of our accomplishments this year. So I tried to stick to the 3 slides, and then I'm going to just try and highlight that, and then I'll answer questions. I have a couple extra things too to just add on. But I don't exactly.
One more time.
One more time.
Here we
Okay.
go.
All right. So these are some of the things we've done this year. We were very successful again on our national exams with higher success in all of our languages. We had Haley Ely earn first place in her 11th grade National Junior Class Colleague Essay Contest. Andy McGregor won a National French Teacher Award for Senior Award. We had students for the first time taking the AP French exam. These were students enrolled in a non-AP class, but they took the French AP exam. We had a generous LEF grant to sponsor a multimedia presentation to the Latin classes by Historia Antiqua, and it was called A Day in the Life of a Pompeian Slave. So those are some of the things we've done. I've listed more. Our professional foci this year, as you can see, we've been very busy with lots of new initiatives. And we are on Twitter also, and that's our handle. I urge you to follow us because, as the kids tell me, it's way cooler to have more followers than for the number that you follow. So your following to followers ratio has to be a certain way, and we're not that cool yet. So help me out. These are some of the. Oh, sorry, I kind of jumped. I feel like I'm a little out of order here, but a lot of the stuff we've been doing is based on technology, and we're using technology, what we consider in meaningful ways to improve communication. And as I said, we're on Twitter. I put a sample of something I posted there. The language of the future, surprise, it's French. The French is going to be, you can click on, in the PowerPoint, you can access this article, which talks about how French will be the language spoken by the highest number of people in the world in the next, I think it's 5 years, but I forget. So this was just something that caused a little buzz, kind of interesting. Teachers have websites, classes have websites, the Latin Club has a website. I posted some video projects. We use Edmodo, Chromebooks, iPads, all this stuff. And we are busy. We've been working this year on the same things that the other departments have. A lot of this is state mandated and trickling down through the district, and we've been very busy. Lots of new initiatives this year, and as a result, some things have been pushed to the background as we have to deal with the new mandates. And I will tell you honestly that teachers overall this year are feeling very overwhelmed, but we are working hard. Our enrollments continue to increase. The total number of enrollments last year, last school year was 304. We're at 350 this year, and next year we're projected to be at 380. We have 22 students enrolled in double language, and a quick poll recently was that of the graduating seniors this year, 8 of them are intending to study language in college, and at least 3 of them are choosing a language as a major or a minor. We anticipate increased enrollment in the next several years. Again, and part of this is that students will be requesting more upper level or 5th-year classes due to the change in the middle school where Latin is offered in 7th and 8th grade. Also with French being revitalized at the moment with our French teacher, Mrs. Allison, at the high school, and the French program at the middle school running full steam ahead. We do anticipate that there's a demand for 5th-year AP courses in all 3 languages. And this leads me into my next point, which is that it's a bit of a unique situation in our department because I swear this wasn't planned, but I got an email today from a parent, and this is something that I get all the time, where parents in 6th grade are picking a language based on what's going to happen down the road in 11th and 12th grade. And it's a very, I don't know what to say. And so I was going to just read you this email because it was a perfect example. It came this afternoon as I was typing up my remarks for tonight. So it said, "Hi, my daughter is interested in taking Latin next year. Before I sign her up, I wanted to learn a bit more about Latin in high school. My questions are, 1, is Latin offered in high school for all 4 years? 2, will Latin meet any foreign language requirement a college she applies to may have?" And she went on a little bit with that. And then 3, is Latin, if Latin is currently offered all 4 years at LHS, is there any possibility it could be phased out before 2020 when she graduates? So this is just, I just wanted to raise this issue again. I know I brought it up last year, and I know no one can make promises, and I know we can only do so much, and affordability, and I understand all of that, but I just wanted to remind you that it is something that we need to have a commitment to with each of the languages. We have, we struggle with breadth versus depth and what we can offer, but since it's a sequential learning, it is an important thing to consider. So I just wanted to bring that up again. In the past, you've asked what you can do for us, so I wrote 2 answers. Just in case. And so as I said, with all the new initiatives that teachers are working with this year, again, we need time to work on these topics. And for some of them, I think we also need additional professional development and training. So I definitely think time is needed for data analysis for things like common exams, continued course alignment and review DDMs, the new educator evaluation, SMART goals, iPads, Chromebooks, Common Core alignment. And those are things we're working on. We just need time for that. But I also think we still need PD training for some of the technology. And some of it we do share amongst ourselves, but things like Aspen, the new grading portal, and our MacBooks and Google Docs would all be helpful trainings. As I stated before, our enrollment is increasing. And as I mentioned last year, we have the sort of unique situation here. So my last part here is we just need to think about how do we account for this issue with what we offer at what levels for students and for parents. So that's my question, which you can consider. Thank you very much. Do you have anything for me?
She already answered my 2 questions.
Yeah, I went on board here a little bit. I think my slides were
Good. Alex?
Yeah. In terms of the development of this program over the past 3-4 years, I think especially the work at the middle school to make sure that the 3 languages we offer are treated, relatively equally in terms of the class time and the exposure. I particularly like how students are able to get a taste of each one before they have to choose.
Absolutely.
And if they do have that Latin now as an option all the way through, I think that's very valuable. My question is about the results of the program. So once students who do participate, so we'll say 3 years at the middle school, 4 years at the high school, 7 years of education in the language. We can say 6 because 6th grade they're taking a bit of everything, so they might not be able to focus so much on one. What are the results of that? Are students being able to speak the language? Or are students going, maybe going abroad, maybe more towards when they're a couple years later? Are they able to test out of more basic college level classes in the foreign languages and move into the more advanced, or get rid of that requirement entirely?
Yeah, that's something we're trying to gather more data on at this time, and partly because up until very recently, it was really Spanish that was consistently being offered for, let's say, I'd say 5 years, really. But when we look at the 7th and 8th grade, we count it as 1 year of instruction. And the 6th grade is really a taste introduction for them. So we don't usually count that in there. So they get to an AP level course that, is is proficiency based in the modern languages, so French and Spanish. The idea is that yes, they are placing into an upper level language course if they chose to take one at college. Or certainly they should be placing out of a requirement if they've gone successfully through AP. So we haven't tracked a lot of that data yet. Like I said, again, because we're a small school and our enrollment we're noticing a trend towards it's increasing. Because it's a 6-year sequence time-wise, it takes a while for us to get those high numbers up at the top as well. So you have everybody at the bottom, and then the classes at the top are sometimes smaller classes. But those are our top students who want to go to selective colleges, who want that 5th-year course in order to say, I took 4 years at the high school, I went to the highest possible level, I took the AP in language. And so that's where the drive is coming, I think, from the parents and the students, and the hope is that if we can offer it, that yes, they're being very successful. In Latin, it is the goal is to read Latin, not to speak it, and to then be able to discuss it, and so you'd be looking at literature and that kind of thing. Did I answer that?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias, Steve.
And we almost, what are we, the penultimate here? Almost the ultimate, Meredith Perry for Wellness and Health.
Just want to start off by saying 4 years ago I was here, and I was 3 days away from having my child. Tonight, 33 days. Don't worry, I got this.
Before
This
you
is not-
started, I'm gonna suggest that we gotta like keep track of who goes first and who goes, and we gotta like roll it up. So like, these guys can lead off sometimes and not always.
That idea.
Well, you guys are in charge, you keep self-governing, you keep track.
Gotta hose you. Gotta hose you.
It's all right. Save the best for last. That's fine. Okay, so Meredith Perry here with Health and Physical Education. I'm going to mess this up. Probably turn it off. I broke it down by school because I just thought we're all singletons in the Health and PE department, so we have great conversations when we talk about curriculum. So Kathy Hibbard, wonderful, we all love Kathy so much. I believe she was here earlier getting her wonderful chair for her retirement, which I'll put my time in too, but good for her. I'm so lucky that I was able to work with her. She's just fantastic. And she does wonders with the program and with the kids. Even at the high school right now, kids are reminiscing because they know she's retiring. So at the Russell Street and Shaker Lane schools, all the students participate once a week, 45 minutes. But in addition to their instruction time, Kathy also offers different programs, Fuel Up to 60, the fitness club, which is in conjunction with the Fuel Up to 60. And this year they also did a taste test, trying to get more and a better idea from the students of what kind of snacks that they like, so we can try to incorporate healthier snacks for them. Zucchini bread, protein drinks, and carrots and hummus. Surprisingly, the zucchini bread came in first. They didn't think that was going to be the the number one taste test, but they did. So that was wonderful. And just Kathy's presence in general and just her love of being active is really wonderful for both of those schools. And then at the middle school, Greg Gillette teaches at the middle school. All students participate, grades 6 through 8, 2 times per week for about 44 minutes. He also works, again, outside of the classroom. He worked with the Roots and Shoots, which I believe is with Mrs. Finnerty. He helped with the Kick Out for Cancer event. I was like, oh no, am I wrong? Excellent. He also helps in the Best, but now I believe the middle school isn't officially a Best Buddies chapter.
We have permission to use the name.
So you, okay.
Say that on camera.
Okay. I wasn't sure if they were Best Buddy. I didn't know if they left off the plural form. So they do have permission to use the name, and I do know that they are trying to. They've applied to be a chapter as well. Relay for Life, Greg's always a part of that, and on any type of intramural activity he is in charge of, as well as the PTA volleyball fundraiser. At the high school, Mike, Lynn, and I both teach different sections. We tried something this year where we combined our classes. So currently we offer fitness and conditioning and sports and games, and it worked for a while. The difference between the two, one focuses on basically lifting weights, and the other focuses on sports and games. What we found is that sometimes students don't always want to play the activity, so instead we kind of worked together and said, why don't we try this out to have a Fit for Life, which is really the idea. And I know that I mentioned this last year, and we actually were able to work it this year. It worked very, very well. I was basically in the gym playing some type of activity where they any type of activity that the kids asked for, basically. Barrel ball, which is a game that I made up, which is kind of like American Gladiator, but in a safer way. Capture the flag, basketball. And it was really student-driven. What are you interested in? What do you want to play? And Mike kind of handled the fitness room and the HIT room, as he calls it, which is the high-intensity training room. And that's more for the advanced lifters. So it was a little bit tricky because there are two of us with the 3 rooms, but we were able to get some students for teacher assistants that were really helpful, some seniors that were mentors to our younger students, and they were really able to help them kind of motivate them, get them ready, and it actually worked out really, really well. Negative of that is I only had 1 section last semester, and I have 2 this semester, where Mike has 4 sections. So we weren't able to do it with all of our classes, and it was just a few of them. And where it worked, where we were able to do this, it was wonderful. And he found that it was difficult with the other classes, and the students were a little bit upset that they weren't allowed to have that opportunity. We also have the Fitnessgram, which is huge, DDM. We had started this probably in about December and didn't realize the intensity of this program and the training that we all needed to go through in order to administer it properly. So we went through all the training. We understand it completely now, and we are ready to go in the fall with the Fitnessgram. Currently, health starts in the 6th grade, so 6th through 8. Twice per week for 44 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. The puberty lesson was actually reinstated this year for the 5th grade, which we were very proud of. And it happened yesterday, and from my understanding, it went swimmingly. Moving forward. The kids were really engaged.
Really? Oh, my goodness.
It's getting late. The kids were very interested. They were asking questions very well, and I'll follow up because it just happened yesterday too. So, moving forward, 2 times a week for health at the middle school for 44 minutes, and there is so much that Tricia Bonacore does with the middle school students, much outside of the curriculum. There's a health club, again, the Best Buddies program. In conjunction with the Wellness Committee, we did the Wellness Day, which I was there all day. It was great. The students seemed to really like it. It was focused on stress this year based on the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. And we decided that we're going to try to do that every other year. So just for 7th and 8th graders to kind of get everyone an opportunity, and it was a lot of work. So it was just something that I think that we would like to continue. But like I said, every other year. They have a Mix It Up Day, Red Ribbon Week, so many other initiatives that they do. We did the Signs of Suicide at the middle school for the 7th grade. And they also did a Day of Change this year, which was a program for 8th grade students to create a more connected and caring, confident community, which was something that was they're very proud of. We're all very proud of. And then, of course, we did the Youth Risk Behavior Survey this year for the 6th and 8th graders. I'm sorry. We also certified all the 7th graders in CPR and AED, which is a huge push that we want everyone to be certified, which we also certified the 10th and 12th graders at the high school. And it was just the basic CPR, and we're hoping to continue that as well. There's something, I teach health at the high school. I also teach the sports and games. This year, it was the first year that I actually noticed that a large number of freshmen were not able to schedule health into their schedule because of the amount of students there are and where their schedule fit, because health and PE are usually the last to kind of fall when creating the schedule. And so my concern is, with the bigger classes coming up, how many more are going to be left over and how much larger are the classes going to be? So that's just something that in my mind I'm just trying to grapple. We did the signs of suicide this year for the freshmen and the seniors. Success in both. Chris Herron was a wonderful success. We then had an art project win first prize in conjunction with the presentation that we had. It was really wonderful. Nicole Patterson's senior project was fantastically done. Very proud of her for that. It was a drunk driving mock car accident, which I was actually, I think I won the Emmy for that. But
Yes, you did. Daytime Emmy.
Cannes Film Festival.
It was, yeah, I'm very proud of that. Last spring, I had mentioned I took some students to a distracted driving summit. And in the fall, they presented to the school about texting and driving. And it was, they did a wonderful job. We had all the students sign a pledge, and I was really proud of them for that. And then, of course, we administered the Youth Risk Behavior Survey this year. Did I forget? That's just typical day's work. Any questions? I tried to go so fast. It was not 5 minutes. I tried so hard.
Alex?
Yeah, with the fitness club, is that an after-school program
At the-
Shaker Lane
yes.
and Russell? Is that just at Russell Street?
It was once a week, and I believe it was at both schools. Not at Shaker Lane. Just kidding. Just at
Just Shaker Lane
Russell
doesn't
Street.
have the after-school support that Russell Street does. And how much PE time were the students? You said it, I missed the number.
That's okay, because I was trying to go fast. I believe they have it once a week for 45 minutes.
And that's at Shaker Lane and Russell Street?
Correct.
Okay.
Am I correct on that? No, I'm not correct.
35.
Oh, sorry.
35.
35 and 40.
35 and 40? Thanks.
Just kidding.
I would have believed you, too, if they hadn't been here.
Well, that's why I'm looking. I'm looking for a little help, yeah.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Hillary Bridge.
Fanfare or something.
Some trumpets or something.
Why don't you play the
play
horns or
my own
something there?
fanfare. That doesn't really work, right?
I thought about trying to get my own soundtrack for my life, but I haven't really gotten around to it yet.
Hasn't happened for me yet either, but I keep working towards it. Okay. So,
I do have that. My wife tells me, why are you laughing all the time? You're not that funny.
I'm Hillary Bridge, K through 12 Fine Arts Curriculum Coordinator, and there you go. How does this work?
One more time.
One more time.
There you go.
Awesome. Oh, I wish I knew I couldn't read it from here. Okay. So I will just start kind of going down what I have here. So an overview of some of the accomplishments. Oh, so awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. So school by school here. First we'll start with the elementary art. So the art students, both at Shaker Lane and Russell Street, have participated and are participating currently in the Tricentennial Celebration with some artwork. They've also had some artwork showcased at the Reuben Hoare Library this year during Student Art Month. We have a fourth grade. The fourth grade is going to see the de Cordova Museum soon, and the fifth grade is also taking a trip to the Institute of Contemporary Art. We have 2 art shows coming up too at the elementary level. So the Russell Street School had theirs on the 15th, I believe, of May. And then Shaker Lane's, has that happened already?
4th of June.
4th of June, yeah. So come down to Shaker Lane and see some student artwork there. The middle school art students are starting to incorporate more art history into their classes. They're learning with a variety of mixed media and different activities. They also had some artwork showcased at the library. And they also had some artwork showcased at the Transportation Building in Boston, which was a pretty neat thing. For Youth Art Month, there was a few award winners at the middle school level for the Scholastic Art Awards. So we had Abby Myers, Emma Hartzell, and Derek Ing, Hannah Lord, and Nicole Biagioni, who all won awards for the Scholastic Art. And the Abby, Emma, Derek, and Hannah also had their artwork showcased at the Transportation Building. So that was a neat thing for them. Hopping up to high school art, we already touched on it with Meredith's presentation, but we had John Allen and his digital photography and graphics classes won the award for their Chris Heron presentation, so much kudos to John for that, and all the work that went into it. We had a number of students at the high school level get Scholastic Art Awards. There's way too many to read, really, so let's just say, looking like 17 students. 17 students won silver or gold keys with the Scholastic Art Awards, and very proud of all those achievements. There's continues to be a good variety of offerings at the visual art level at the high school, and they are still running the AP Art Portfolio class, which I know that some students are really enjoying the fact that they have that opportunity. So to switch gears over to I'll start with elementary music. So elementary music, this is the first year we've started 5th grade beginners instead of in the 4th grade, but as consulting with myself, really like we're pretty successful. I feel like the students are, although they're getting a little bit less as far as the time that they have, they're still achieving just about as much as they normally would. I feel like that one extra year of developmental level kind of helps. I can move a little faster with the 5th graders than I could with the 4th graders as beginners. So I'm finding that there's not a whole lot of material that I normally would have covered by now that I'm missing. There's a little bit, but not too much. So I would call that one a win. This year we had our first and now going to be annual, as much as I am dreading but loving, the townwide concert event. So it was a great success. I had lots of people come up and say that they were so happy to see the progression of students from starting way, way down in their very first performance all the way up to the high school. So that was neat. With the help of the parent boosters, we also had the added motivation of ice cream for the, particularly for the Russell Street students. They asked me if there was going to be ice cream after their next concert, and I had to break it to them that they won't get ice cream after every concert. So that was a great success, and then continuing, and so we had the first fundraiser for the Littleton Public Schools music program that included the mattress sale, and I know that it took a lot of convincing to get some of you on board with that, but I'm happy to say that with one day of fundraising, we made $3,500. So we definitely hope to repeat that in the future. That money has already been spent on marching percussion because of the next thing that I was going to jump into, which is, of course, the growing size at the high school. So we are currently at 47 students, and next year we'll be at 66. And since I am my own feeder program, I also can kind of predict into the future, and the following year will be more than 70. So that's such a wonderful problem for me to have. I am so very proud of all that growing size, but it does create some issues as far as particularly just the logistics of fitting that many people in that room. We will be getting creative next year, but that's okay. I'll stack them on top of each other if I have to. So that's great. The student retention also from 8th grade to 9th grade is improving. Usually the transitions between schools is where students typically will drop out from playing a band instrument. So still working on the 5th to 6th grade one, but 8th to 9th is definitely improving there. We had some students selected for awards. We had 2 students who made senior districts this year, Henry Bouchard and Zach LaCroix, and Henry was also selected to play in All-State and was the 3rd highest scoring violinist in the state. So yes, very good for him. We had 2 students also perform with junior districts, James McDonough and Kate Pelaya, so definitely proud to have them. We have, jumping now to the choral program, so we now have about 1/3 of the students at the middle school involved in the choral program, which is, again, another great problem to have. So we need to use the high school auditorium for our concerts now, which is a much nicer venue anyway, so we're very happy to have that. This year was the first time that we had a musical that was offered from grades 7 through 12, and that was a great success. I had a lot of people give me feedback and said that it was a really neat experience, especially for the younger kids, to get to work with some of the older students. And it was a very well-attended show. That was for Shrek, and it was a great show. And then, of course, we had the Much Ado About Nothing, which we talked about earlier with Mark. And it's too bad he's not here, actually, because I was going to tell him that I have this whole lesson that I give my kids about listening versus hearing versus listening. So you missed it.
He's not here to
I
listen.
know, and he's not here to listen to it. But I definitely talk about hearing versus listening with the general music students in particular. Continuing on, we are also proud to say that the high school chorus is now back offered as a class in the school year, and their enrollment is double what it was their last year. So that's good. And potentially offering a theater arts class in the future and continuing to offer the beginning guitar that was offered now. And let's see, what else have we got here? Okay, so we started a new rhythmic counting series. That's me at the middle school band level, and I actually finished it much faster than I thought I was going to, so I love that. I'm going to definitely have to look into some more advanced literature for there. This was, I piloted it with the 7th graders. Partially is that they're kind of a smaller group, so we were able to kind of get through things a little bit faster. So I'll have to look for some more advanced literature for them for next year. I did change the method book that I used at the elementary school level, and I'm happy with that, so I'm going to stick with that. Steve Bergman and I have been working together this year to unify our general arts, our general music curriculum, so we're now teaching concurrently the same thing at the same time. Let's see, talked about all those things already. Good, okay. So looking ahead, our general music curriculum should be completely finished by June 2015. That's also one of our SMART goals, so we got that. Already talked about the increasing enrollment and the marching percussion. The high school band, now that we have such a huge offering of students there, I plan to compete with them next year, hopefully, if we are able to, in the MICA Festival, which is in April. And the art teachers have actually been exploring the possibility of having a district-wide DDM that's on color. So they're still in the process of forming that. But
They submitted it.
oh, they did, good, fantastic. And to piggyback on Daryl's question earlier, one of my DDMs is actually about writing critically. So for the general music classes, one of the DDMs that I plan to use is writing critically about music. So there will be writing included there.
The art blogs covers that too.
Yes, that's right. Erin Updegrove has started blogging with her students this year, so they do have art blogs where the students are required to write critically about art there as well. And so to wrap my things up and kind of piggyback also on what Liz was saying, since you guys are always asking us what you can do for us, the music department, as in particular, has just kind of calculated out some statistics, and there's about 1,600 students in Littleton Public Schools, and there are only 3 full-time music teachers. So that averages out to about 533 students per teacher, which is kind of, at that level, you kind of think of that and go, wow, that's kind of an amazing statistic. And so at the elementary level in particular, the kids get general music once a week for 35 to 40 minutes. And so that ends up being a little bit more than 5 weeks of time over the course of a school year. And because of the staffing, we're just not able to offer anything more than that. We all kind of run into staffing issues. The high school is currently only offering 3 music classes, and in, priding ourselves in such a successful and wonderful district to work in, only 3 offerings is, I just wish that we could offer some more there. And then there's, of course, where was I? Oh, yeah. So the needs that we have as the music department can be really summed up as one thing, that we need more staff. The art department has 3.8 FTE. We are at 3.0, but we all have the same amount of student population and time. So the students receive the same amount of art as they do music, but art has 3.8 and music has 3.0. So consider us. Question?
Those more mattresses. Just kidding. The only comment I have is, in going up to the awards at the high school, The display of the artwork was fantastic. You know, just all over the place in the lobby area and the screens that are displaying the artwork. If we can trickle that down to Russell Street and Shaker Lane, when other events are going on at the school, it's just such a great opportunity. Parents don't always have the opportunity to go on June 4th to see the artwork, but they may be going to something else at the school. And I think the kids take a lot of pride in seeing their artwork displayed as well. So I would say maybe just try to trickle that down and have that comment.
I know that Andrea would say she would love to have those screens because it's difficult to hang things on the drywall.
Digital portfolios too at the middle school level. So that's something we're exploring, is that all student artwork will be uploaded digitally next year.
A great way to display in that front lobby.
So I'll get more stuff from Odsonia? Awesome.
Yes. Another coffee mug.
I need more magnets.
Great.
Good.
Great.
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, those are some very compelling numbers, both in terms of the enrollment and in terms of the matriculation from year to year. In terms of the high school program, in terms of the band, which I sort of see as one of the sort of the flagship of the department, is us being hopefully able to compete soon. That's incredible. I don't know if we've ever had a competing band, but that's certainly not in my time. And so that's really incredible. In terms of the space, is there anything we can do? And in terms of the number of instruments you have available, in terms of maybe it's storage, is there, having that many students will naturally create a number of issues in terms of the space you have, the rooms you have to store the instruments you have, and the number of instruments you have. What do you need?
Well, we definitely need storage space. I've actually already started kind of trying to figure out what I'm going to do to make all these people fit into this room comfortably. So we do have some items in the high school band room that could be moved around. There's particularly, I'm speaking of some platforms that are being stored for the theater that will have to find some other place to go just because I'm going to need that space. But I'm also considering just trying to get creative and changing the orientation of the room because it's longer than it is wider. So if I spin us all around so we're looking at the wall instead of at the whiteboard, which isn't ideal, but I think I can fit enough people in there as long as we just spin the room around sideways. So that's my plan for now. I'll be spending time this summer setting out chairs just to figure out exactly how I can do it. But storage, yes, we could totally use some storage, so that would help free up some space in the room.
Excellent. Call a geometry teacher.
Yeah, exactly. I should call up Dr. Hogan and use his engineering skills to help us figure stuff out.
Maybe hoist the piano from the rafters.
Well, we do have 3 pianos in the room, too, so if we could find someplace else to put those, that also might help.
And then my other question was in terms of the parade this summer.
Sure.
In terms of preparing students for that, the summer, it's in September.
Yep.
So in terms of, are the students going to be ready day one?
They will, because the 300th Parade Committee has graciously given us some money to start a summer band camp this year. So for the last 2 weeks of August, we will be at the school from 7 to 9 p.m. learning our music and marching so that the students can be prepared for the parade that Saturday.
Excellent.
As soon as school starts, yes.
Band camp.
Oh, yes, band camp. We're doing it.
Yes,
I know. Let's just stop.
It's a good book.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, that's really a great. That's really a great effort by the 300th Committee, I think. And
Yes.
also,
Yes. We are very appreciative of that.
Also for you for being able to take on organizing that and making sure.
I've had a lot of help this year from the parent boosters, so, I'm definitely a public thank you from them for all of the help that they've been helping.
Yeah, I've seen them out there at the events. So
Yes. They are largely behind helping to get that money for the 300th Committee, so.
Excellent.
Yes, and our alumni, Ethan Dauphiné, also was pretty helpful in helping the band obtain that money, too, so.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I'd like to thank all of you for sticking it out. Obviously, this is one of the most important presentations we get each year. We hear what you're saying about, and we can see through this presentation the amount of time and effort you guys put outside the classroom, particularly you guys are the department heads, but also the rest of the staff that participates in these types of efforts. And it helps inform us on the rigor, both us as a school community and the community at large, the amount of rigor that is in the Littleton public school system. And Daryl asked a great question about the writing across, and you guys all answered that. It's clear that it's happening. And it goes a long way towards informing me personally as a parent about what my expectations are for my kids relative to what's being asked of them. It's a different environment than the ones we grew up in and we went through. So this is really important to us. I appreciate you guys sticking it out. We listen. We hear all your concerns. There's some things we can do immediately. There's some things we can't. There's something that'll take time and effort, but we know that they're on the list and we'll do what we can. So thank you.
Went swimmingly.
Yes. All right. Free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you
That's
all.
the visual that goes along with it. That makes it even
Yeah,
better.
Billy's got that down.
Very quick, it'll be very quick.
Very good.
Promise.
All right.
We pretty well touched on most of the activities that are on your agenda. Just one thing I'd like to mention, though. I had the pleasure of attending the Academic Scholar Luncheon yesterday with John Harrington and 2 students and their parents. Wonderful time to celebrate 2 academic scholars from our school. There are about 70 scholars that were recognized. It's just such an incredible event to listen to what they've done in their high school careers and where they're headed. This year for Littleton, we honored Val Higgins and Juliet Patino. So I just wanted to bring that up this evening. It was a great opportunity to celebrate. All the rest that we've talked about this evening. The only thing we didn't mention, graduation, will be on June 6th.
And one other thing I'd like to bring up is we had last weekend at the track the Relay for Life, which has become quite an annual event here in Littleton, wildly successful in terms of the number of people participating and the work being done. And this year they capped out at over $47,000 were raised through that effort. So that's on there as well. All right. Old business, food services program.
Last meeting, we were asked to bring this back to you, so we enclosed the same handout we had last package. I also enclosed a copy of the survey that we administered to middle school and high school students. We've been using the results of that survey to test new waters, so to speak, with different food choices, et cetera. I know we've been successful in terms of trying to meet students' dietary choices, so to speak. We have a salad bar at the high school now, once a week. We just started a salad bar at the middle school. We would have started earlier, but we didn't have the equipment. We had to find it, and we managed to create something to make it work.
Very popular.
Yes, so we're headed in the right direction. We use the Wellness Committee to help us out in terms of sampling new foods with students. So we are making some good strides. Somebody had mentioned last meeting, I think it was Chloe, about quality of food on the plate, it's getting late tonight, quantity of food on the plate. And we're looking into that. We just, again, want to make sure that what we do is within the guidelines and also is a healthy choice. So that's the next step. Steve and I have had a number of conversations with the food services director. We're even toying with the idea of recommending to the committee that we bring Maswell in to do a audit and study of our food services department. And it's not just, here's what you're doing, here are the recommendations. They actually help you through some of the recommendations that they make. It's a $5,000 bill, and right now we just have many other places to put that money.
Questions or comments?
What was the name of the?
Maswell? It's a
Maswell.
business association,
Okay.
in Massachusetts.
In districts where they've come in, because you're a member, in districts where they've come in, has there been a realization of better than 5K?
I don't know if I had the data to answer that, but their anecdotal information that I get is it's a very good program review that has good suggestions to move forward with, but I don't have financial data. that
We're
goes
still on
with it.
track to be 18K in the hole at the end of the year?
Roughly right in there, yes.
So of course 5,000 and there's a net there. So something we should be considering. Okay.
I mean, you know, there was an article in the paper the other day about, you know, just in general across the country, districts are dealing with this. It's certainly not an isolated incident. In some ways, it's good that we're reevaluating and there's a constant focus on this. On the other hand, you know, at some point you just got to acknowledge your hands are tied and there's only so much you're going to be able to do given the circumstance and the requirements. So, you know, I appreciate the amount of effort we're putting forth on this, and I think we should always consider, you know, other alternatives, but, you know, I think we got to be, you know, cognizant of cost and benefit as much as anything. just spending to throwing things on the wall and seeing what sticks isn't going to be the answer. We got to know that we're making an effort that has a good opportunity of making a benefit.
Return, yeah.
Right, well, I'm in the process of getting specific information about the MASBO program and specifically what they do and offer, and I'll bring that to school committee at some later date.
Very good. Anybody else?
No, you caught what I was going to say about that.
And it's so very important that what we serve in the local school lunchroom is at the U.S. congressional level now to deal with the DOE, so must be important now because Congress is involved.
See that?
DOA.
Sent that article out to you last week. It is in political debate as we speak.
All right, next agenda item is the 2014-15 calendar.
We brought the calendar to you a few weeks ago, probably 4 weeks ago now, and we took a look at what we talked about that meeting and added another page in terms of description. So just wanted to bring it back to you so that you...
I like that. I looked at it. That's exactly what I was asking for. That's more meaningful to me than the overall calendar. I can just look and go, is this a week that we're not figuring out the box or anything? Just go, yep, it is or it isn't. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Glad it's helpful. And I haven't let my colored key lay to rest yet. So we'll be looking at that next year, perhaps.
Right. There's different ways to learn and evaluate information, right? We're a community of learners.
Exactly.
I also see you put on the school closing and delay announcements info, which is helpful, and see your Twitter's on there, so maybe you'll get some more followers.
I can always use more followers.
Good for your tweet.
Any other questions or comments on that? All right, on to new business, enrollment projections.
Every year at this time, I bring to you a recommendation for school choice in. And as I'm saying that, my iPad decided not to work anymore.
Yeah, you want this?
Thank you. The recommendation that I have for you this year is based on a number of factors. We have 7 students that are graduating, school choice students that are graduating this year. In order to maintain a constant stream of cash flow that we seem to be relying on during budget season every year, I'm trying to maintain that balance, but at the same time stabilize class sizes. When I first came to this district, we had a lot of ebbs and flows from year to year, and sometimes you can't do anything about it. It's just a population demographic that you have to deal with. But when you have ebbs and flows, you're moving teachers around, and as a result, you're getting in situations where teachers are being thrown into subjects as a result of an enrollment increase, and then they're going back to the grade before, et cetera. And then you get into situations where, in middle school, especially with our scheduling, where you're scrambling to find somebody as a .2 teacher. And the same holds true as high school. So the intent of this is twofold. First of all, to stabilize class sizes so that we can have a constancy of staff. Second component is to make sure that we stabilize our revenue as much as possible. So I'm proposing this evening to you with Rich's blessing. When we look at our elementary enrollment, K-2, we feel that we can fit 11 students in next year, and it will, obviously they will percolate through the system as they normally do. We have more than 11 people that apply, I'll be quite honest with you. We have waiting lists every year, but at this point in time, with the cuts that we've sustained in the past years and our enrollment increases, our class sizes are at the upper end of the acceptable range. And you've heard this evening, folks. No surprise to you. Something that we deal with every day, and as a superintendent, I have a finite amount of money that I'm given, and I have to make it work and make recommendations that will meet the needs of all students with the revenue that we have. If we continue on this pathway, though, you know we're going to have to do something as we go forward that we're being proactive about. So some of you are probably asking, what about the new construction in town? Well, there are no guarantees that when students come into our school system, they will necessarily end up in a situation where we have too many kids in a classroom. We would split the class. But quite often, and it depends on demographics, I don't have the magic answer for you, but quite quite often when that happens, from my own personal experience as a superintendent, you may split a class, but you may have one class with a fewer number of kids, and it could in fact increase the number of school choice students that we have in our district. It depends on where those kids fall in terms of our enrollment demographics. You can use data until you're blue in the face. We all know there are limitations to data. We as a society have to learn how to use data much better as we move forward. So it's meaningful. When we look at the construction in houses, I think we have 55 houses coming into town. They're not low-end priced. I mean, they're over $300,000, but they're of a size that I think will attract newer families. So I'm assuming that and maybe incorrectly so, hopefully my past experience will be right, that we're going to have some younger families move into town. You know as well as I do, as your kids get older, you're a little more reluctant to move because you like that stability. And so normally what happens when towns or cities create these developments with certain size houses, you usually have younger families move in. So with that, I'm comfortable making the recommendations that I have this evening. Questions?
Comments? No. The only comment I'll make is, as long as we're, confident as a school committee that the evaluation and the process is worthwhile, then I'll stand by the recommendation you make. I think the community is very concerned about, you talked about new houses, but we also have the 40B that's looming over us. But I think the point you made relative to, it's not like they're just going to overflow the hallways and we won't be able to deal with it. And it actually might have an impact that we can't understand at the moment because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. I'm not worrying about it in the sense that if it's going to happen, it'll happen and we'll deal with it. And it might actually open up some opportunities. One of the things we heard about from some of the department heads was we can't offer as many classes as we want to. We just don't have the number of students, the critical mass to achieve that. Well, maybe we'll get some critical mass at some point that allow us to do some things that we haven't been able to do before. So, I think we'll just see how it plays out and we'll go forward from there. So tonight you are asking for a vote on school choice, correct?
Yes, by statute that's required.
Right.
The number was 85 for the 40B, right?
Correct.
Superintendent and I have had these conversations on the math that's involved here. Fully support the recommendation of 11. We've been at 1,600, give or take, for quite a few years now. It's a number that's sustainable, infrastructure-wise, personnel-wise. There are some of those unknowns. Straight line distribution of 84 new students into the district, K through 12, it's 13 grades. I'm not going to do the public math because I'll fail miserably, but you can see what it is. We don't anticipate straight line distribution, though. It's certainly going to be spikes here and there. Kelly's point, though, about you may find yourselves in a situation where we'd want to actually go out and get even more choice in, because when you split that class now, you'd have to split it, so maybe, and I'm going to just use arbitrary numbers, you end up with that second class being 10 only, and you'd want it to be something more than 10. So it opens up those, and as it flows through the system again, as all these classes do, and the ebbs and flows, and we know where some of the points are where the students peel off. Certainly at the 8th grade level or going into the 9th grade level is a good one, because there's a lot more choices for the kids out there. Parents want to put them whether they're parochial, charter, or whatever it might be, that in some of the more elite private schools even. So we've seen that. So Kelly's recommendation is certainly not made in a vacuum. I'm very confident of that as we've been watching this over the years. So I fully support that.
Do you want to make the...
Okay, I'll make the motion that total recommended slots, kindergarten 4, grade 1 is 5, grade 2 is 2, for a total of FY15 of 11 choice slots.
Second. Motion is made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So could I just make one other thing? So when we were at the Board of Selectmen meeting, was it 2 weeks ago, they had a presentation from the Economic Development and their efforts on attracting business on it. And then one of my pet interests is understanding the ebb and flow of the people into town, as well as the school system as a component of attracting not only people into town, but businesses also that support the community there. So I think there was a discussion at that point as to whether there'd be a school committee representative or liaison to the economic development, which I wouldn't mind doing. As well as part of that, I would like to get a better understanding of the ebb and flow of people into town, because understanding our population shift relative to what type of business may be attracted for it, I think would be interesting. Piece of background data to supplement with our school enrollment projections. So I see a natural tie between the two there. So that would be something I'd be interested in doing if it.
Have they made a formal?
I don't think they've made a formal request yet.
I concur 100% with Darrell as recommending here, and we just proactively offer ourselves up, so to speak.
Right.
And the sacrifice is Darrell.
Because I don't have enough time. Yeah, I have enough other things to do.
Here's my suggestion, Mr. Chairman, is maybe a note to the Board of Selectmen Chairman requesting that we place someone on there and that we already have someone named and move forward that way. And that way it codifies it.
Very good. All right, the next, so we're good?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
Very good. The next item, I guess we moved to superintendent's report without even really knowing it.
May I
Superintendent
stay on old
evaluation.
business for a moment?
Oh, yeah, old business? New
Because
business?
it made the old business on the agenda, but you may recall last week I talked about a letter following up to Mass Highway, and that was dealing with the high school intersection at King Street. I did send to you a draft letter from Mr. DePaula at Mass Highway. Is everybody okay with it?
Yes.
It becomes yours to sign as the chairman.
Okay.
But it was still double X when Kelly wasn't sure yet, when he drafted it up.
Put my name next to it.
And just to remind folks, we're concerned about the safety at the intersection of the high school and King Street. We have engaged with the Mass Highway Department. Right now, not certainly satisfactory to what we think needs to be done there. As we drive around the state, we find other high schools at the high school level, so we're not even speaking elementary with the younger children, but even at the high school level, much better signage, much better traffic control, and much better speed limits. In other words, slower speed limits than we have, the 40 miles an hour that's posted by our high school right now. So we're asking them for a little bit more consideration as going forward. Thank you.
All right. Kelly, do you want to go down the other item on the superintendent's report? There's only one more. Or do you want to keep going?
That's really, I put it there, but that's your item.
Superintendent evaluation. Darrell?
Hopefully we're not running out of steam for tonight, but.
Well, I guess that's my question. What are you envisioning here? Like, are you envisioning like a robust, in-depth discussion on the superintendent's performance over the last year? Which I think we should have at some point. I'm just asking if it's going to be, if you're envisioning that now.
Yes, the superintendent might be better to table it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is because the earlier presentations, I think, have taken a lot of our
Correct.
time and mental focus here.
I would personally would rather defer it. If that's
I'm
fine.
comfortable with that.
Okay.
You
All right.
okay with that?
Yep.
So we'll table this and then get it on the next agenda. Okay, excellent. Thank you, everybody.
I think just for the body politic is that each of us have drafted our own pieces. Darrell has done a compilation of them all. The superintendent has had discussions with school committee members and the chairman as to where that's at. So that process is ongoing based on how we want to approach this. But excellent recommendation to defer the actual public presentation and discussion.
I think it'll be more meaningful for the audience too, because I'm sure we've lost a few at home. All right, next, Kelly, June 5th, school committee meeting.
Just items that we're going to be tackling, another busy meeting. And I'm going to have a conversation with the principals. This is our first year of our new Vision 2020 plan. Rather than have more than one meeting in June, we're going to enclose information in your package, and I've asked them to keep their presentations to 10 minutes each. Just do the basic highlights. Mr. Chairman, the only thing I have, it could wait, but it's a simple motion. The town sent Steve Mark a request about signing of warrants, specifically payroll. We need a motion And I will pass that over to you.
That's what you do.
And what it does is it just verifies the fact or legalizes the fact that we have less than a quorum signing the payroll. For some reason, the payroll warrant needs a separate motion. There must be a new law that's come into place.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm going to by name. I'm going to make Mike. I move that Mike Fontanella be the school committee representative to sign the payroll, school department payroll without a quorum.
Second.
Motion is made, seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Bring the question to vote. Oh, sorry.
Just, do we want to have an alternate in the event that Mike's away, sick?
Open to a friendly amendment.
I just offer the amendment that,
No, it's a good idea.
that one of us be named the alternate in the event that Mike's unable to.
Who's the alternate?
Who's in town more often?
You.
Who's you?
You.
All right, I'll be it.
Use.
I didn't know that I was in
All right,
town
so
more often, but
I'd
I'll
offer
be
the
it.
amendment that Mr. Avella be the alternate in the event that Mr. Fontanella is unable to perform his duties.
Second that. Second the amendment. All right. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, sneaky, I was going to name you.
All right. Subcommittee reports, PMBC.
Nothing.
Thank you. Budget Subcommittee has nothing at the moment. Policy?
Just quick, we met on Monday to go through the last batch for this year's goals of getting through policies. I have three or four that I need to bring at the next meeting. I'm going to ask to perhaps waive a second reading so that we can have them in place in time for the school year start. And that's the updated requirements on background checks, updated requirements on expulsion of students in our tracking requirements. Oh, shoot, I didn't write the names of them here. What was?
You don't know them by
Do
letter?
you want me to pull them up?
Do you recall the other two, Kelly?
I don't know if
Bullying.
Insertion of new language.
Yeah, and, sorry, didn't jot them down.
How was it, the vice chairman? No.
Anyway, I have four of them that are, there's legal updates that we have to
So
have
we're
in place.
just conforming them to
Yes,
statute.
and then there's four administrative ones that we're just going to rescind there. So I'm going to be going to bring them forward at the next meeting and ask if we could just do those on one reading.
Okay. Okay.
There, and I'll have those out for everybody sometime this week probably,
All right.
or next week.
Okay. That it? All right. Interested citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you looking for a motion?
Do we need an executive session? Anybody have a need for an executive session, sir? We just ratified the contract. I'm hoping the answer is no. All right. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a
So
motion
moved.
to adjourn. Second.
Racing.
Point seconds.
All those in favor?
Starving.
Aye. All right, thank you, everybody.
Well done on the first one, buddy.
8 years
So
of
you're,
listening.
so are all your meetings gonna last this long?
Oh, God, no way.